come from? We'll go to Jason in Crewe.
Jason from Crewe, fish, chips and peas, £7.50. It's the best chippy in England.
Janice in Leeds, go.
Regarding fish and chips in Leeds, it's between £9.50 and £12.75.
Whitby, how much is fish and chips?
3 of us, fish, chips, peas, I think one of us curry sauce, 3 cans of pop, just short of 70 quid.
£70? That's 23 quid a head, man. Even my maths does that. Very quickly, a voice note. Campbell in Scotland, go.
Up here in Banff in the northeast of Scotland, we can get a fillet and a half of haddock with a regular chips for £8 and 10p, and it's by far and away one of the best chippies I've ever had.
Kenneth in Surrey, fish and chips, go.
Fish and chips in Ascot, about half a mile from where you used to live, will cost you £12.60. Great show. Keep up the good work.
That's why I moved, because you were living there. When was the last time you had fish and chips?
Couple of weeks ago.
How much? Where'd you get it from?
I think it was about 40 quid. It was in the Ivy.
Honestly, you really are. For any of you who think he's a man of the people, I nearly said you're a...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. 3 minutes past 6. We have reached the end of the week, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday. It's the 15th of August, and my goodness me, what a week it has been. We're going to be talking this morning about a great many things, including the state of the economy, because there are people who would have you believe that somehow the economy in this country is actually doing quite well. People like Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, people like Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, both of whom were out and about yesterday, telling us all how well we're doing and how fantastic it is. Meanwhile, they're saying that we're going to have to put taxes up because to pay for everything, because actually it's not that fantastic. There's a piece of the Financial Times this morning which is so riddled with propaganda, as if it's been dictated to them from Downing Street, that I cannot barely hold myself together. Yesterday, you know, I got very, very worked up, and I'm going to try not to do that today because, you know, clearly it's not good for my health. But in the end, you've got a bunch of liars running this country, you've got a bunch of absolute and utter morons running the Treasury, and you've got a bunch of complete and utter numpties attempting to try and cover it all up. I don't know where it all went wrong, but it went wrong. I'll tell you what, when you lot decided to inflict the Labour government on us last July the 4th, because ever since they've been in, it's been a completely unmitigated disaster. The front pages this morning, here's one from the FT, the headline of the propaganda paper, relief for Reeves as non-dom tax returns quell fears of a mass exodus. And basically what they're saying is that not that many people have left the country. It's only really about the same number of people that were predicted to leave the country, so we can handle that. It's not that bad. You know, so despite the fact that millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds are missing from the Treasury as a result of people leaving the country, that's okay because we knew that would happen. I mean, that's their argument. Front page of the Times says Trump eyes economic incentives for Putin. Big Putin meeting coming up later on today. Of course, it is Vladimir Putin in Alaska with Donald Trump. They're going to be trying to solve the Ukraine crisis. Yesterday, Volodymyr Zelensky decided to turn up in London, and there's a very odd picture which we're going to show you later on in the show, where Starmer is hugging him as if he's his long-lost brother or mother or son or lover or something. I mean, it's a very, very weird picture. Daily Telegraph says the West must not be cowed by Putin. Far more interesting story, though, is a Labour-run council in Birmingham, which has ordered the removal of Union Jacks and St George's flags that people have put up because they thought it might be a nice thing to do. Front page of The Sun, now boot him out. This is the TikTok migrant, the guy who's been telling everybody how to break into this country and how to get a free life no matter what you do. Turns out he also did a video about how to kill your wife. What a nice man he is. And he's still living high on the hog in a Crown Plaza near Heathrow. Front page of the Daily Mail, fat jab price soars after Trump threat. The cost of King Kong fat jab Manjaro will almost triple in Britain after Donald Trump sparked a global drugs price war. Well, you know, just eat a bit less and do a bit of exercise. And maybe you won't have to spend any money on the fat jabs. 0344 499 1000. Tom Slater's here with us from Spiked Online. Tom, very good morning to you. Nice to see you. We've got gaffes of the week as well, and you can be absolutely assured that Kevin O'Sullivan is in one of them. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. And there it is. Tom, very good morning to you.
Morning.
Should we kick off straight away with Rachel Reeves? Because Rachel Reeves, yesterday, this is obviously a mantra that Downing Street's putting out. You know, it's not as bad as you think. We're doing a lot better than you are telling us that we are. And don't listen to all of those horrible, nasty, ghastly right-wing bigots on places like Talk and just assume that we're actually doing all right. Here she is on the GDP.
Today's numbers show that the economy beat expectations in the second quarter of this year. We are the fastest growing economy in the G7 for the first half of this year, with a GDP growth of 0.3% this quarter, and that's after GDP growth of 0.7% the quarter before that. Look, I recognise there's still more to do to make sure that people in all parts of the country benefit from that growth, but since the general election, when I became Chancellor, the economy has grown by 1.2%, and GDP per capita, so for every person in the country, GDP per capita is up by 0.7%. So encouraging numbers today, but of course we need to build on that to make sure people in all parts of the country are better off.
I'm sorry, and I'm going to apologise again, it's early in the morning. Is she taking a piss? Seriously? Is she actually trying to tell us that the economy's going well? Because it bloody well isn't.
And everyone knows that.
Everyone is suffering. People are paying more for everything they need to buy, to feed their families, to go on holiday, to park their cars, you know, to drive around the country. Everything has gone up in price, and the economy is completely down the toilet.
And it's an insult to people's intelligence. They know, looking out there across the country, that things are not as rosy as Rachel Reeves is trying to make out. Talking about, we're the fastest growing economy in the G7. That's a bit of a tallest dwarf competition at the moment, to be perfectly frank. And also, we all recognise that so many of the promises that we were given, that there was going to be this laser-like focus on growth. These growth figures are paltry, we all know that. Yeah. And then also, the fact that the message that Downing Street are continually putting out at the moment is, it's not as bad as we thought, in effect. Tells you everything you need to know. It's not exactly things can only get better, is it?
As I say, I'm really, really wound up by this piece of the Financial Times this morning, which is a piece of propaganda like which I've never seen. I mean, the people that run the Financial Times should be ashamed of themselves, right? I used to tear up the Guardian. I'm going to tear up the Financial Times today, because here's their story. They say, their headline, their page one main story, relief for Reeves as non-dom tax returns quell fears of mass exodus. They're basically saying, well, the predictions were that about a quarter of non-doms would leave the country, right? Yep. And that's apparently happened. And so they're saying the fact that that's happened is not really bad news for Reeves, because she knew it would happen, and no more than a quarter of them have left. And it says here, HM Revenue and Customs payroll data has found no evidence to suggest that more non-doms left Britain in response to Rachel Reeves' budget than official predictions. Seriously? You know, these people...
What a victory. No,
this is not journalism. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm sorry to be a bit sort of dramatic about it, but that's not journalism. That is a pathetic front-page story, which is presumably dictated by the wonks in Downing Street, who were saying, oh, please try and join in with this ridiculous mantra of Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, which is that actually things are a lot better than we thought they would be.
It could be much, much worse, seems to be the message that we're getting. I mean, there's this quote in the story, with all the things going on in the world, Britain looks like a pretty safe and stable place. I don't think that would chime with many people's experience. I certainly don't think it reflects where the economy is at the moment, where things are really on the
state of the nation. You know, I said this, I was having a drink with a friend of mine last night. I was in Oxford Street yesterday, and as I was walking across the road, there was suddenly this sort of very loud noise came out of nowhere, and there's about 50 kids on bikes riding down, and as they came down from Marble Arch through Bond Street, riding on these bikes, you know, back up on the, you know, doing wheelies, going right in front of cars, you know, going through red lights. It was quite menacing. And the tourists were all sort of watching it like it was some kind of show. A couple of them were sort of, you know, riding on the top of the bikes, you know, doing all these kind of amateur dramatics and all that. But it was clear, well, the thing that I took from it, this is anarchy now in this country. These people, these kids are not afraid of the police. They're not going to see anybody from the police. They're recklessly driving and cycling down a very, very busy main road, and sort of almost taunting people to crash into them. And it was really quite menacing, as I say. It was really quite... If I'd been with my kids, or if I'd been with, like, small children, I would have been quite frightened. You know?
And it's something
and literally there was not one police officer to be found. And it was almost like we are now living in lawless Britain.
No, it certainly feels like that. And people... You see that sort of thing all the time in London now. And so for all the kind of quibbling about, well, actually London's never been better. We all know that's not the case when you see things like this.
What is that?
Whole new forms of antisocial behaviour.
Have you noticed that there's this kind of lefty belief that we should... John Rentoul will be on with us later on today, and he's one of the people that perpetuate this argument. You know, basically everything's fine. You know, look at the figures, look at the statistics. They actually tell you that Britain is a much safer place than it was 20 years ago. Absolute cobblers.
And also, to a certain extent, it's just arguing past each other because of the fact that yes, you can break it up and you can say what homicides are down or whatever, but the things that people are talking about, shoplifting, antisocial behaviour, this general sense of things kind of fraying at the seams,
people taking their trousers off on the tube,
all of that stuff is obviously on the increase. In certain ways, a city like London is on the slide. You don't have to be a doomerist or anti-London to recognise that. It's just the evidence of your own eyes.
It's not a right-wing view. It's just, you know, this is actually what we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, right?
No, completely. And it's just embarrassing. It's become... They often say that people are kind of waging a culture war against London. I think it's the opposite. They're just trying to, you know, make Londoners in particular ignore the evidence of their own eyes at this point.
Yeah, and also, you know, there is no question, as we see it every day here on this station, that people are leaving the country in large numbers because if they can, they will. It's as simple as that. You know, if you've got a job where you have to be here, like I do, I'm not leaving the country, clearly. And in fact, I don't think I would even contemplate doing it. It's not the sort of thing I would do. But I know plenty of my friends who have decided to move to Dubai, decided to move to Portugal, decided to move to Italy, New York, whatever. You know, if they can, they're going. Because it doesn't look like a place that encourages entrepreneurs or encourages business or encourages anyone who wants to make a bit of money for themselves.
No, absolutely. It's one of those things where it's not just anecdotal evidence at this point. It's clear that there has been a shift towards the exit door amongst some people, high net worth individuals, as well as some kind of enterprising younger people who feel like if they did want to kind of set out and start a business or whatever, that this isn't the place for
a lot of kids. I mean, a lot of my friends' children who are now sort of, say, coming out of university are disappearing because they're going, we don't really see Britain as a place where we're going to have any opportunity at all to develop our skills or to get a halfway decent job.
No,
you know?
It very much feels like this is a country which has embraced managed decline, and that trickles through to business, to young people, and that's just very much the mood now. So whether it's Rachel Reeves, the FT or whatever, can continue to say everything is fine, we all know that it's not.
Everything isn't fine. But don't worry, because we've got plenty of money to give away to Ukraine. Yesterday, we've got ahead of the big summit tonight in Anchorage in Alaska, where Donald Trump's going to meet up with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Zelensky decided to pay a visit to Downing Street, and Keir Starmer and his idiotic people that run his social media page decided to make a slow-motion video, right, of them hugging each other. Check this out.
Much more serious encounter. So it's one of those things.
They should have a burning car in this over there, you know. Oh look, somebody set fire to the car.
But this is the thing about Keir Starmer. He's weak domestically, so you try and kind of pose on the international stage. You try and kind of soak up some charisma by proxy,
but
some
can I just ask you, as a male of the species, and I know that I can get into some serious trouble here because I might assume that you're a heterosexual male. I mean, have you ever hugged anyone like that? I'm sorry. I mean,
I'm sure I have.
I have friends, male friends that you know, we go out together, we have fun together, we get a little hug every now and again. You know, he's sort of holding on to him like he's his long lost brother, or you know, his lover that he's not going to see for 18 years because he's been sent to jail. It's very weird. I just think it's weird.
I think the slightly more prosaic explanation is that this is kind of how he thinks he's doing diplomacy. Like, we are showing that we're putting our arms around Ukraine, and that even though Trump might be about to go to this meeting and sell Ukraine down the river, etc., etc., I think it's probably more that than anything else. But Keir Starmer even trying to execute that looks weird. Him trying to look warm and friendly will always look odd because that's him.
Because he's not warm and friendly.
Not at all.
And he's also, I mean, this is the only guy he could find in the world in terms of world leaders who's actually shorter than him.
No, exactly.
So it makes him look manly. But it's just, I just find it very strange that he has to do this hugging, this kind of outpouring of what looks like, emotional love for a bloke who he doesn't really know very well.
Yeah.
He keeps saying things like, we will stand by Ukraine forever, Volodymyr Zelensky is my friend. How is he your friend? You've met him like maybe half a dozen times and you've spoken to him on the phone a bit. He's not your mate.
Yeah.
He's a guy who managed to get himself in charge of a country. Some people don't think he's a particularly good leader of that country. Some people think he's been, he should be asked some difficult questions about what he's done with all the money he's been given. And also, people in this country are pretty sick to the back teeth of giving Zelensky billions and billions of pounds for which he doesn't appear to do anything.
Well, I think it's one of those things now where even as Zelensky is facing a lot of pressure at home, and even though there is a kind of weariness amongst the West, anyone looks better stood next to Keir Starmer, don't they, at this point? Anyone looks more...
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
More of a leader.
This is Betty, who says, Mike, they probably spent an hour putting that hard hat on Rachel Reeves in her hair to make her look less daft. 20 minutes behind the camera. Yeah, probably right. Morning, Mike. Just at East Croydon Station, only to see two blokes walk into the Cafe Nero and clear half the stuff out. Nobody batted an eyelid. Suspect that theft isn't reported to the police anymore. As long as the rest of us obey the rules, nothing will change until we all stop paying for things, says Mark in Croydon. That's going on every day. I mean, you witness it, right? The idea that, somehow Britain is not lawless is ridiculous, because it clearly is.
And shoplifting is a great example. We can trace statistics all day, but that's clearly gone up. And also it's kind of been almost quietly decriminalised, because nothing ever happens as a consequence.
No.
Those rules are never enforced.
Police won't show up.
Police won't show up, and it's just created a situation in which people increasingly feel like mugs for playing by the rules.
Yeah.
And as soon as that starts
This is
to break
exactly
down,
what I said yesterday. I was very wound up yesterday, and I went, you paid your taxes, you come into work every day, you pay your fare on the tube, you pay your fare when you come in on the public transport from wherever it is into London, and you feel like you're being taken for a ride. You feel stupid because nobody else is doing it. You feel like you're surrounded by people who are not paying for their tube fare, who are not paying taxes, who are in receipt of benefits, whether they're migrants or whether they're homegrown scumbags, right? And there's an awful lot of people who are taking us all for a very long ride.
No, and it's started to really demoralise people in exactly the way that you say, and that's a really toxic mix, because it also becomes a recipe for more breaking the rules, more bending of the rules. People think, why should I bother?
I'm getting people every day saying exactly those words. Why should I bother? Why should I bother paying tax? Why should I bother paying, my fair share? Why should I bother, forking out money for a sandwich when I can just steal it? And that's where we are.
Because they're witnessing this every day. They're witnessing people clean out the shelves. They're witnessing people barge through the tube turnstiles, and nothing ever happens. There's not even someone shouting after them. It's just kind of accepted passively, but even by the authorities. Or the people who are supposed to be guarding. And as I say, this thing I witnessed yesterday with these kids, cycling down the road as if they owned it, because it was as if they owned it. Because guess what? They do own it, and nothing's going to happen to them. And not one of them would have been questioned by the cops. And I thought to myself, you know what? If I tried to stand in the middle of the road and say, stop that, they'd probably just run me over and kill me. And they wouldn't care. And it's that lawlessness, isn't it? Especially when you think, London is famously one of the most surveilled cities on earth. Got, per capita, so much CCTV. The Metropolitan Police, believe it or not, does exist, although you don't see a lot of them these days. Is it really impossible to get on top of some of these phone snatching gangs, this kind of lawlessness? It's like they've just given up. This cannot just be about funding and police numbers and so on. Something really fundamental has shifted now, it feels like.
I know, absolutely right. Here's one from Warwick in Devon. He says, morning, Mike and Tom. Great start to your show once again. Is it just me, but whenever Stalin and crybaby thieves talk on camera, their noses become longer and longer as they speak, as they actually believe their own lies? Well, should we have another look at old Rachel Reeves on the GDP? Because I think this is worth playing out quite a lot today. This is a woman who is obviously completely and utterly deluded. Right? It was only a few weeks ago she was literally sobbing her heart out in tears in her House of Commons, and we still don't really know why. Right? Have a look at this.
Today's numbers show that the economy beat expectations in the second quarter of this year. We are the fastest growing economy in the G7 for the first half of this year, with a GDP growth of 0.3% this quarter, and that's after GDP growth of 0.7% the quarter before that. Look, I recognise there's still more to do to make sure that people in all parts of the country benefit from that growth, but since the general election, when when I became Chancellor, the economy has grown by 1.2%, and GDP per capita, so for every person in the country, GDP per capita is up by 0.7%. So encouraging numbers today, but of course we need to build on that to make sure people in all parts of the country are better off.
Yeah, so she's admitted basically the GDP in the first quarter was 0.7% growth. It's now 0.3% growth, which is less than half of what it was. And she thinks that's a good thing.
I don't think even she's convinced that things are going well.
She can't possibly think that that's real. I mean, there she is about to sort of, you know, weep and cry into her socks. Nobody knows why she was doing that. Keir Starmer, of course, so Mr. Sensitive, didn't even know that she was crying when that happened. Unbelievable stuff. Anyway, listen, it's 21 minutes past 6. We've got lots more to do. Let's get a voice note from Paul.
Morning, mate. Great show as usual. You said you weren't going to get angry. It took you 9 minutes. Got to be a new record.
I mean, listen. 9. All right, okay. Well, what do you want me to do? I can't help it. These bozos are ruining everybody's life. It's time they were held to account for it. This one says, Mick in Wallington. Lammy gets captured at poaching. Starmer lies daily through his teeth. Cities in the Midlands celebrate Pakistan and India Day by flying their flags. But the Union Jack gets removed. England flags get taken away for VJ Day. It is VJ Day today, by the way. Migrants get 5-star treatment whilst homeless veterans sleep on the streets. And you are liable for arrest if you speak out. They are having a laugh, says Mick in Wallington. Listen, we'll come back with loads more after this on Talk.
I am not hopeful that there's going to be any big grand resolution. I think that there's going to be a lot of discussion about Ukraine, Russia, but I think that a lot of the topics are going to involve the relationship diplomatically, business-wise between the U.S. and Russia. Yeah. You know, we have had, you were talking earlier about China, we have had the, you know, unprepared resolution of pushing Russia closer to China. And now we're doing the same thing with India and others because of our policies.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 25 minutes past 6. Jackie has tweeted, she says, Mike, we're in Britain, not Pakistan, yet Birmingham Council takes down our flags, but Pakistan's flag is lit up onto buildings. Enough is enough. Well, this is the thing. It's VJ Day today. A couple of the papers have got, you know, big front pages. The Daily Mirror, VJ Day, 80 years on. They faced untold horrors, thousands of miles from home, and they are the lucky ones. They came home. So many didn't. Today, we remember them all. Front page of Daily Express, similarly, has got a picture of a man called Reeves Draper, who's 100 years old, who saw the formal surrender of Japan, which ended the Second World War. A picture of him when he was in the Navy, aged 21. Our VJ Day heroes gave us more than freedom. They left us the example of how it can and must be protected. And whenever you talk to people, Tom Slater's with me here from Spikes, whenever you talk to people who were involved in those conflicts in the Second World War and who fought all the way through to the Japanese surrender, you know, they are lost for words when you go, what do you make of what's going on in the country now? They can't believe it.
You know, especially because it's not just the fact that the country is in a bad economic state, but that kind of socially, culturally, in terms of the freedoms that so many people gave up their lives to defend are just being encroached upon, not by some kind of invading army, but by this government.
And they were fighting for a way of life. They were fighting for something that was, you know, that you could get your hands around, that you could actually grasp and say, this is Britain, this is what we believe in, this is how we are, right? This is, as a nation, what we stand for. Now, what the hell do we stand for now? I don't know.
No, exactly. So that kind of sense that everything's sort of unravelled.
Yeah.
And everything that, exactly as you say, people felt that they were laying their lives down for has sort of withered on the vine, and then you've then got a government which is encroaching upon the very freedoms that we thought we were defending. I mean, it's just such a grim picture when you look at it from that kind of historical.
Well, I mean, I think this week for me, and we're going to talk about all sorts of things in the course of the next hour, this week for me summed up really, really well by that incident on the tube, where a guy gets on the tube, we don't know if he's a migrant or not, takes his trousers down and starts shouting and screaming and moaning, and obviously there's something wrong with him. He's got mental problems and all the rest of it. Guys on the train get up and try and, you know, stop him and tell him to pull his trousers back up. There are children seeing it and all that. You know, in the end, they get involved in a punch-up. They drag him off the train, and now the police want to prosecute the people who took him off the train. That's not Britain to me. You know, that is a foreign country.
No, because what do you expect people to do? I mean, no one would have preferred for that encounter to end in the way that it did.
Right.
But if you've got people exposing themselves around women and children and so on, I mean, they've got those insipid signs up on the tube exactly saying that if someone's doing X, Y, Z, you should trying to sexually harass a woman, you should distract them with a question. Sometimes you need to do more than that, and that's an example of that.
Sometimes you need to distract them with a fist in the face, I'm afraid. Anyway, let's get a voice note from John.
John from West Yorkshire here. I mean, Rachel Reeves surely has signed her own death warrant, hasn't she, as Chancellor? Because in that little clip you said, she said that the first quarter, since she was in, the economy grew 0.7%. Then she said in the second quarter, it grew by 0.3%. And then she said that overall, the growth has been 1.2%. Now, I only did elementary maths and O-level maths, but 0.7 and 0.3 when I was at school came to 1, not 1.2.
I'm afraid you're right, John. And not only that, if you actually go to advanced maths, what you'll find is that if it goes to from 0.7 to 0.3, it actually has declined by more than 50%. So you're actually in a negative, you know, going down below the actual zero line. Let's have a gaff, though, because it's Friday, and we're going to try and cheer everybody up. This is Kevin O'Sullivan.
It is Friday, August the 8th. Here's what's coming up. As we... hang on. This is the wrong... sorry, I've got to start again there, folks. This is the wrong list here. Bear with me. It is still Friday, look at this, a good start. This will be on Mike Graham's gaffes next week. Don't tell him, anyone. For God's sake, don't tell him. Yes, where were we? Yes, it's Friday. It's Friday. Come on, it's the weekend. Don't worry about it.
Do you think he knows that it gets recorded? You know, what he's actually doing goes out live on air.
I think he's starting to stage these for you. That was.
I wonder. I do wonder.
That was sensational.
It's so good. Very good. Excellent stuff. Let's play. What should we do? Starmer and Zelensky again. I think in slow motion, because I think people need to see this. You've only just joined us. It's coming up to 6:30 in the morning. Vladimir Zelensky came to London yesterday. As far as I know, there's no stories in the paper this morning saying we've given him a load of money, but presumably Keir Starmer's written another cheque to give him, you know, a couple of billion quid. But who in their right mind puts this out? Check this out. You would think, and I'm surprised at this, even as useless as he is, Keir Starmer has never addressed it. He's never actually written about it, he's never tweeted about it, he's never spoken about it. It's almost as though this government doesn't want there to be anybody in the country who has a negative view of asylum seekers and or, quotes, illegal migrants. They just don't want to know about it.
Yeah, and the fact that they just continue to ignore this issue, even though it's the #1 issue roiling the country, it's now, if you poll people, the issue of migration in general is the top issue facing the country as far as they're concerned, with the economy second, which is pretty significant. And Keir Starmer, like this, Rishi Sunak used to do this, many previous kind of lame duck politicians, prime ministers do this. They love the international stuff because it allows them to look authoritative.
Yeah, but
and
he doesn't though. He
whatever.
looks like an idiot.
No,
I mean, this
I
hugging
agree.
stuff makes him look.
That's what's
really
funny about
stupid.
it, is that it's not even working here, because all he's really doing is posing for kind of cuddly photo ops, things that look like could be a trailer for a romantic comedy rather than anything actually particularly serious.
You know, the day the Prime Minister came out as gay and decided to welcome the Ukrainian Prime Minister into his lair, you know, after his wife left him. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. I know that that's obviously completely scurrilous and completely wrong and would never ever be believed by anybody, and therefore I can never be done by Ofcom for it. But that's what it looks like to me.
Exactly, satire, Mike. You will absolutely say. But I mean, that would be a headline that would distract people for a couple of days.
It would.
So if they really wanted to, you know,
but no, do you know what? Nobody would be
guns.
surprised. And what? Keir Starmer's gay? And what? What do you mean? I had no idea. I never thought that. You know, but he's got a wife. He's got some kids. You know, the whole thing is completely like manufactured, performative. PR spin and nonsense. He might as well come out with any kind of, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if not, you know, before the end of his tenure, you know, they spin something like that in order just to take the heat off the economy.
Just make it up out of whole cloth, just to distract. You
just
know.
to go.
Like, that's the ultimate dead cat strategy, is like pretending that he's, you know,
exactly.
There's all this scurrilous stuff about his personal life purely to throw people off.
Just to throw people off. I mean, just ask Lord Alley. He'll probably give us a rundown on it. 6:32. I'm Mike Graham. Thomas Slater is here. We've got loads more to come, including the TikTok migrant, as he's become known. He came here, of course, on Saturday, famously. He checked into the country. He did not get detained. He did not get arrested. He did not get returned, despite the fact that that's what Keir Starmer said he was going to do. And instead, he's actually now living at large in the Crown Plaza in Heathrow. He also did a video a few weeks ago telling people how they could kill their wives and get away with it. What a nice man he is. He's from Afghanistan. I say we kick him out right now. This minute, this absolute minute. Not wait, don't wait for tomorrow, get rid of him now. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:35. I've got this from Lady Gaza, who says, Rachel from accounts is living on Fantasy Island if she thinks we are so dumb as to fall for her propaganda about the state of the economy. The country is on its knees. We can see it with our own eyes. I mean, we can. People are not stupid, right? People can see what is going on around them. Tom Slater's here with me from Spikes. You know, it's very obvious when you walk into a shop, if you don't happen to see somebody shoplifting while you're there, you do notice that everything has gone up in price. You know, people said to me the other day, you know, food inflation is supposed to be running at 4 to 6%. It's running at more like 35 to 40%. When you go in and buy anything from a can of tuna to a packet of spaghetti, you know, it costs about, you know, 50% more than it used to cost.
No, and people are already kind of feeling it from all the years of much more rampant runaway inflation we've experienced. Like, to turn around and be like, everything is fine, everything's on the right track. don't you worry about it. You might not
realise
realise
growing
it.
economy in the G7.
Exactly.
Do me a favour.
You don't realise it, but actually things are pretty good. People have had enough of that now.
Yeah.
And it's not just
They're
because
not
of
buying
this.
it, are they?
No, exactly. It's also because they've had so much bitter medicine for so long. It's not just this government, as much as a shower there have been, but people are just fed up, and also they're fed up of being lied to, gaslit, told that they should ignore the evidence in their own eyes and their own bank balances. It's not good enough.
No.
But I don't know how they can continue down this road.
I really don't know.
Just continuing to sort of
I
corrode
don't
their own
know.
authority.
Let's get a voice note from Miles on Starmer.
Good morning, Mike. Great show as usual. Just watching that video of Zelensky and Starmer. I was expecting Starmer to get down on one knee and pull a ring out. That's how bad it is.
I mean, exactly right. It is. It's appalling, isn't it? It's like this little bad, hopeless, awful version of Love Actually, right? With a gay prime minister. It's just ridiculous. Johnny Rugby says, morning, Mike. You're so wrong when you say this country doesn't attract anyone. Britain attracts pedos, rapists, drug dealers, murderers, terrorists, scumbags, parasites, etc. God help us. And Joanna from Salisbury says, Mike, so we are the best in the G7. Wow, how bad are the rest of them? I want some of what Rachel Reeves is on, from the tearful mess in Parliament to the smiley, happy person with a pipe dream. We are doing well. This is the thing. People are so cynical about the state of this nation. People can see with their own eyes what's going on. You know, you walk down the street, you see homeless people, you see more homeless people than you've ever seen, you see the fact that the streets are dirty, they're not being, litter's not being picked up, bins are not being emptied, they're overflowing, you know, nothing works. Yeah. It's as simple as that. And let's talk about the TikTok migrant who's been known, apparently the Sun have now named him as Parwiz Hanifiyar. He's from Afghanistan, and he basically comes into the country as Alexandra 420, which is his TikTok account. He's got 70,000 followers. About a couple of million people have seen his journey from you know, from France over to here, into Dover on Saturday. And it turns out he's also done a video in which he describes how you can kill your wife. And he's still, I mean, I said this yesterday to Robert Jenrick, who was in talking to us. I said, can we not just go and arrest this guy? Yeah. You know, surely that's what we should be doing. Let me read this to you, right? This is what he said on TikTok about how to kill your wife. I will let her sleep first. Before I kill her, I drink a bottle of alcohol. I've never drunk alcohol in my life, but I teach you the technique to get less punishment. Just drink a bottle of it. Don't get too much drunk. Kill her immediately. When the police come, they say he was drunk. How many years or prison you will get? About 7 years. And he says then during the 7 years you will have academic courses in prison, and after 7 years you have learned something and you're only 30 years old and sexually very strong. You marry a new woman, you must do this technique. I mean, really?
Jesus Christ. I mean,
really?
As you say, the question is like, why is he still here?
Yeah.
Why was he not sent packing already? But also, how was he able to enter the country in the first place? This isn't the first time that we've seen one of these kind of toxic influencers kind of almost live streaming their illegal entry into the country, spouting either, you know, barbaric misogyny or support for Hamas or whatever it might be. And yet it seems like it has to, the authorities have to wait for the Sun newspaper or for the media to catch on to these people before they're even noticed, let alone dealt with.
I know.
But this, like, it's like part of this as well is like it's almost like they're laughing at us.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that really, really.
Well, this is the thing that I think people noticed a couple of weeks ago when the first you know, demonstrations happened outside the Canary Wharf Hotel of Britannia, but also up in Epping as well. People, these migrants are like looking out the window, taking, using the taxpayer-funded phones to film the demonstrations going on and laughing at them. And just kind of, you know, mocking them and making signs to them and sort of, you know, being rude and making gestures and basically saying, you can't touch us, we are here, we are protected by the police.
And it's just become a kind of open secret, hasn't it, that Britain is a soft touch, that it's so easy to make this crossing. We've got those record number, you know, 50,000 in the course of Labour's first year in power. It's the quickest that any Prime Minister has reached that particularly grim milestone. So the idea that the gangs are being smashed is actually now, it's not just that they haven't done it, it's like a running joke amongst people.
Isn't it?
So, and at what point do you know, it's not even that people are almost angry at this government, although they are, they're kind of just deeply cynical and they've almost started to switch off from anything that it says now.
Yeah. Absolutely right. This from Paul. The problem with crime figures is, as we were saying earlier, people are just not reporting them, as they've just given a crime number if they're lucky. The country is a shambles. And Roger says, Mike, all this antisocial and fearful elements you described in Oxford Street are partly the result of a useless mayor, Sadiq Khan. And I can't disagree with that. I mean, Sadiq Khan has lauded it over the I would say, complete and utter destruction of London. You know, London before Sadiq Khan was a much safer place, a much better place, a much more kind of, you know, tolerant place, and just a more pleasant place to walk around than it is now.
I don't think anyone who's lived in London for all of his reign could say anything different.
Yeah.
Apart from the people who just feel blinkered by ideology and desperation to defend whatever Labour politician is standing up there.
Yeah.
It's obvious to anyone
really
that the capital's been on the slide, and it's insulting to the Londoners who are having to experience that, particularly in the working class areas where you do have spiralling knife crime and all these problems. To go around and say from the perch of Hampstead or wherever it is these people happen to live, everything is fine, is particularly insulting.
It really is, absolutely right. Let's just remind ourselves about Rachel Reeves, because of course everybody knows she's an economist, isn't she?
Well, I'm an economist. I studied economics. I got a master's in economics from the London School of Economics, and I worked as an economist at the Bank of England.
Yeah, OK, darling. 6:41.
Hi, I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and I've got a message for you. Welcome back to this blockbuster edition of What Just Happened. It really is a good one, I think. It's so funny that people keep calling me Meghan Markle, because it's Meghan Sussex now.
Flynn has said, Samara, I agree with you all the time, but you're just boring. Oh
my God. I refuse to work for ITV ever again. Oh my God! What Just Happened? Fridays at 9 on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory at 6:44. Tom Slater's here with me. Though not an admirer of Rachel Reeves, her maths are right, says Adrian in Buckhurst Hill. Q2 GDP growth 2025 is 1.2% higher than GDP growth in 2024. Q1 of 2025 growth is 0.7%, and Q2 2025 growth is 0.3%. And despite what your caller said about adding those figures together for the total 6 months growth of January to July, you really should multiply figures together. Yeah, but the trouble is, Adrian, that's all very well. You have very well illustrated what wonks do. They basically talk about numbers as if they don't actually have any real relevance to what our daily lives are like. What everybody knows is that inflation is up, that wages are down, that we have less money to spend, that we, and in the words of Keir Starmer, have less money in our pockets, right, despite what he says he's doing, and the nation is going down the gurgler. Inflation is higher than it should be. Interest rates have been lowered, which is good news if you've got a mortgage, but not good news if you've got savings. And basically, the economy is being completely and utterly ruined and destroyed by Rachel Reeves and her crap policies. So you might as well argue about the price of fish in Iceland as you are trying to make out that her numbers are correct. Her numbers are not correct. We may be the fastest growing economy in the G7, but that doesn't actually mean anything. because every other economy in the G7 is also in a terrible place. And, you know, why try to make a point that she's, you know, she's doing better than she is?
Well, you know, I suppose if you're given to mathematics and numbers, accuracy is particularly galling to you. But at the same time, as you say, it's like if we're having an argument between 1%, 1.2%, it's a bit of a reminder that things are not exactly rosy. And it's worth remembering that when this government came in, almost channeling Liz Truss, like, it was all about growth. We've got a laser-like focus on growth. Growth.
Yeah, we're going to build houses. We're going to, you know, encourage business. We're going to get investment into the country. None of that's happened.
No, it's just more tinkering around the edges. It's more, whilst also implementing all kinds of really damaging policies. I mean, the national insurance hike has really made itself felt now in the kind of vacancy figures that we saw this week.
Totally.
It's one thing after another, and it's purely. The lack of any kind of longer-term vision is something that's so striking. Now, it's not obvious that you're getting that from all the other parties, to be perfectly frank, but it just feels like managing a already pretty parlous situation is all the Labour Party can offer us, and they're not even doing that particularly well. No,
they're really not. And crime is up. You know, and all of these sort of measurements of whether or not we're a more or less civilised society are going in the wrong direction. Let's have a listen to what Russ has to say.
Morning, Mike. Russ from Hertfordshire here. I share your frustrations with this dump of a country at the moment, run by these clowns. Have you seen the Facebook posts and the X posts? We're making our streets safer for you. Well, you bloody well ain't, because I tell you what, you only got to walk down them to see what's going on. Cheers, mate. Have a good day. Great show. Bye.
Russ, thank you very much indeed. It is Friday, so we're going to try and keep it upbeat. But he's right. Russ is absolutely right. You've only got to walk down the streets of this country, anywhere you like, and you can see that it's deteriorated from what it was like even just a year ago when Labour got in. And listen, let's talk about another lie that comes out of Downing Street. They've been talking about how NHS waiting lists have been going down, that they've been fixing the foundations of the NHS, that they've been giving loads of money to doctors to make sure that they actually do their jobs. The NHS is struggling to get better under Labour, according to the new figures. Waiting lists rose in June, and there are still unacceptable numbers of patients facing day-long delays in A&E. This is all. This is statistics coming in from over the last sort of 28 days from NHS England. So even when they say, "Oh, we're bringing down waiting lists," I had an economist on the other day from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation who said, "Oh, waiting lists are getting smaller," and I went, "No, they're not." And here's the proof. I was right again.
And it's one of those things as well, isn't it, where even if everything that they're proposing came off without a hitch, you're still dealing with sky-high waiting lists by historic standards. It's the same with the kinds of measures they're trying to bring in on the border to try and get a grip on illegal migration. Even if these things, like the one in, one out, that's really 17 in, one out, and all the rest of it, even if these things work perfectly, it wouldn't touch the sides.
No.
So it's just, we have these really deep structural problems in society all over the place.
But can they just stop lying to us?
They haven't got anything to bring to the table, so they just have to say, they have to either lie to you, gaslight you, or say, we've made this minor improvement, don't you feel grateful?
Yeah,
it's not good
like
enough.
we're watching with the economy this morning, you know, we're the fastest growing economy in the G7. You're still crap, right? I'm sorry. This is when I questioned Wes Streeting when he came on my show, what, a couple of months ago? The Prime Minister keeps banging on about all these new appointments in the NHS that keep being made. He said that he said it yesterday, in fact, in the House of Commons. You know, 2 million was the promise in the manifesto, and he said first of all it was 3 million. It's now apparently 4 million new appointments that you've made. I keep being told by people they get made loads of appointments they get made, but then they get cancelled. Is there some kind of trick going on here? I've got a couple of notes here from people who've sent me messages. I've recently had my annual neurology review appointment cancelled and reappointed 4 weeks later. Is this one of the 4 million new appointments? That's from Jim in Lytham St Anne's. Nikki in Kent says, I had an ear, nose and throat appointment on the 21st of July at Margate Hospital. I had a text the other day to say it had been cancelled. I then got a text the next day to say I had an alternative appointment made for the 22nd of July at the same time. So I get this a lot. A lot of people having appointments made, cancelled, remade. That's a lot of appointments, but it doesn't mean people are being seen.
And just to reassure people, they're not counted in that total. That is a reflection, though, of the state the NHS was in when we came in, and I'm fed up with people being treated like that and being mucked about with their appointments, and that is one of the things that people will start to feel changing over the course of this Parliament, and certainly over the next decade this sort of practice will go. I want patients to have more ease and more convenience, more choice and control over their care, and you know, that, to be honest, that's not just the process, it's the culture of the NHS we need to change, and that's what our 10-year plan will deliver.
So in 10 years you might get an appointment. Is that what he's saying? Basically saying that, so don't count the appointments that they make that they don't keep. Really? How does that work? So when you make an appointment with the NHS, it doesn't get counted until you've actually been seen. Really? I don't believe that.
Well, one would hope that they weren't diddling the figures to that degree, but people were so sceptical of everything the government does now because of all of the claims don't stack up. You can't, you can't begrudge people being increasingly cynical about what they're being told.
A lot of people that I know who can't afford to go private are just going private because they have to, because they're going, I can't get seen. I can't get my bad back that I've had for 4 years. I've waited 4 years for them to do something about it. They haven't done anything about it, so now I'm going to go private. And it's perfectly reasonable, perfectly acceptable. But they're spending their own money to do that. They're saving up their own money to do it. And the idea that the NHS, as they keep saying to us, is improving. It's not improving. We've got doctors going on strike again. We've got nurses about to go on strike. We've got billions and billions of pounds going into it, and it's literally getting worse.
No, exactly. And it's a service that people have already paid for.
Yeah.
This is not, it's free at the point of use. It's not free.
It's not free.
It's not like a giant NGO or a charity.
25% of your income tax and mine goes on the NHS.
And people just feel like it's just being poured down a black hole at this point. And everyone knows it's a complete mess. Everyone knows it needs proper structural reform. Everyone knows it needs a kind of overhaul and a rethink. And, it's funny that Wes Streeting, amongst the rest of the cabinet, looks like one of the more assured kind of characters, certainly a better media performer than Rachel Reeves, who struggles to look like she's even convincing herself of what she's saying. But even he's going to struggle, I think, especially as people realise that the NHS is not getting better in any drastic way.
And he's been there for a year now, and this is the trouble. This is what's going to happen to them as time goes on, is that they haven't got the excuse anymore. They can't keep using the excuse that, we inherited a bad deal from the Tories.
It's run out now
because they've been in for a year.
And it looks embarrassing. It was like Jackie Smith the other day saying, we take responsibility for the small boats crossings, but it isn't our fault.
It kind of is.
It kind of is.
It's 48% up.
Both of those.
48% up since last year. This from Gary. Mike, the thing that everybody's missing about the GDP numbers is that the government spending increases economic growth. Now, I've just done a quick bit of maths. If the economy grew by 1.2% in the last 12 months, it means that it's about £30 billion bigger than it was 12 months ago. But here's the thing. Since becoming Chancellor, Rachel Reeves has created a black hole in the public finances of around 50 billion, which means that she has spent 50 billion of public money that she doesn't have to get 30 billion pounds worth of economic growth. That's nothing short of calamitous. Very good point. Because again, this government thinks and believes that the only way to get economic growth is to spend more public money, to give people more benefits. The guy from the Joseph Bransby Foundation the other day was actually saying the best way to stimulate the economy is to actually increase the amount of benefits that we give people. I was going, sorry? What? So you should tax me more to give money to people who don't make any money in order for them to spend that money in the economy, and that will be the answer. And that was actually his theory.
And it's interesting how Labour have because they know that there's only so much that they can sort of take. There's only so much taxation that you can levy against people to the point where it just doesn't really function anymore. It's not actually effective. But at the same time, this remember a few months ago it was all about we're going to bring in all this private sector investment. They were constantly having these kind of events and breakfasts with various kind of captains of industry. I mean, it's obviously gone nowhere because the general kind of economic outlook is really bleak. People aren't in the mood.
Also, nobody's going to put money into a financial black hole. It's like GB Energy and Jürgen, our good friend Jürgen Meyer, the guy who runs it, who basically goes around the country saying, we're building this great big company, it's going to be great for British people, you're going to get your energy bills reduced, which isn't happening, of course. And he says, it's all about public sector investment, it's all about investment. And it's not actually about investment. What they're doing is they're taking taxpayers' money and putting it into various projects in private companies, which benefits the private companies, doesn't benefit us.
No,
that's all.
No, exactly. And it's so clear that we need a much more fundamental discussion about what's gone wrong with the economy. And you're not getting that at all. It's a combination of gimmicks and more of the same. And
totally.
It's one of those things where it's so clear to anyone that Labour don't have the answers. I think the problem is when they look around, they're still a little bit unclear about what the alternatives might be. So that's something that I hope over the next few years you'll really start to see the potential challenges to Labour sketch out a vision which is both radical because we need it.
Do you mean from other parties?
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, something that actually people can buy into and feel like there's going to be something positive at the end of it.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Something positive perhaps at the end of the day today, because over in Alaska, in Anchorage, Donald Trump's meeting up with Vladimir Putin. Here's the president talking yesterday.
We have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace. We'll see if they can get along. And if they can, it'll be great. You know, I've solved 6 wars in the last 6 months, a little more than 6 months now, and I'm very proud of it. I thought the easiest one would be this one. It's actually the most difficult we have.
I mean, you have to say Donald Trump is making changes. He is making a difference. Whether he gets anywhere with Vladimir Putin, of course, it doesn't matter. But you know, the odds are that if anybody can do it, he can.
Well, he's certainly been able to shift the dial, hasn't he? Like, aside from what actually comes of these negotiations, it's not entirely clear that Putin is going into this with any real sincerity about peace. He's a dishonest broker. Is probably the mildest thing one could say about that dictatorial, imperialistic thug. But at the same time, it's clear that Trump coming in has sort of changed the geopolitical weather. It's made it clear that, to be honest, like this conflict, which has been going on for a very long time, was already kind of reaching this kind of grinding, attritional, the lines barely moving, if anything, kind of moving more in Russia's favour. Something was going to give at some point. So whether or not this is actually the peace deal that people are talking up, whether or not this is actually the end of the road, it's quite clear that something has shifted, and Trump heralded that, absolutely.
Let's have a listen to what voice note Lee has to say.
Morning, Mike. Lee from Chelmsford. Big meeting today of the 2 alpha males of the political world. Starmer's not invited. He's talking about sending troops thousands of miles away to patrol somebody else's border. How about he sends them down to Kent and stops all these bozos coming into the country illegally? I think we'd all prefer to see that. Anyway, all the best, Mike.
I think we absolutely would all prefer to see that, Lee. Thank you very much indeed. You know, that is again where the British public are. You know, they see that the country is being invaded. They see the country is being taken advantage of, and it's all very well, you know, when times are good to say let's stand up for our friends in Ukraine and let's, you know, look after what they are facing against Russia. But in the end, you know, fix your own back door before you actually start worrying about who's coming in the front door.
No, absolutely, and it's one of those things where also even that was a bunch of nonsense. You had Keir Starmer a few months ago talking about we're going to have this coalition of the willing, we're going to, you know, put boots on the ground in Ukraine,
which was nonsense, by the way.
No, exactly, because that was only ever, you know, the kind of the small print of that was that we have to have American support in which to do that, probably American air defence, which Trump was never going to provide. And to be honest, I don't think even Joe Biden in his more dotty moments would have wanted to go there, because
Trump has played a blinder, right? Because Trump has basically convinced all of the European nations to spend money on American weapons to then give to Ukraine for free. So he's basically, you know, bolstered his own economy and at the same time not had to get involved.
And that seems like if there are any sort of security guarantees, so-called, for Ukraine, it's going to come in the form of not America continuing to supply things, but effectively, exactly as you say, continuing to sell weapons to European powers to give to Ukraine. So again, it seems like that's roughly what the kind of shape of things might be.
Yeah, exactly right. Tom, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. It's been a very fast hour, I have to say. We've got lots more to do. Benedict Spence coming up in the next hour. Also, James Cartledge, Shadow Secretary of State for Defence. We'll get his view on what's likely to happen today in Anchorage. And we'll be talking as well to a woman who is a Muslim who's had to go into hiding because she started to criticise the rape gangs in this country, and the locals in her constituency where she lives didn't like it, and they started to threaten her with death. That's nice, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. It's Friday. We're going to try and have some fun. We've got some gaffes to come as well. This is Morning Glory. See you after the news.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to the home of common sense. It is Morning Glory, of course. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 7 and we are here for the duration. The sun is up. It's been a pretty nice week, it has to be said, in terms of the weather. We had a torrential rainstorm, I think, a couple of days ago on Wednesday, which nobody could quite understand. But if you are enjoying the fruits of the summer, by all means continue to enjoy them and continue to listen to the only place that will give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The front pages this morning are absolutely full of all manner of different stories. Lots of them, of course, have got pictures of Volodymyr Zelensky, who came to visit Keir Starmer yesterday, who got themselves involved in a rather bizarre kind of clinch, which we'll show you later on in this hour. And Downing Street put it out as a slow-motion kind of Love Actually moment, where Keir Starmer puts his arms around Volodymyr Zelensky, rather like he's his long-lost brother. And he put out a tweet in which he said, "We will always stand by Ukraine, and I welcome my friend Volodymyr Zelensky back to Downing Street." It's all very strange. I just don't understand what it is that Keir Starmer thinks he's doing. But I think he's making a big, humiliating mistake, trying to make out that he's, this kind of, lover, not a fighter kind of guy. I don't know what he means. I don't know what he's doing. The West must not be cowed by Putin, is what it says on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, because they've had enough of what Vladimir Putin's been up to. There is, of course, a massive summit today over in Anchorage in Alaska between President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin from the Russian Republic. Trump eyes economic incentives for Putin, is what it says on the front page of the Times as well. And also they've got a picture of A-Stars results analysis and tables, students celebrating yesterday, or not always, sometimes commiserating with each other as they got their A-level results. Apparently they all did better than everybody ever thought. Taylor Swift on quite a few of the front pages as well. A swift change of image as Taylor unveils a racy new look on the front page of the Mail. And the Sun has got a similar picture. She's put out a new album, which is something about a showgirl, and says that Taylor Swift is her most revealing interview yet, on the front page of the Sun. Their main story, though, on the front is about the boat migrant, the guy that came over and broadcast his journey on TikTok. It now turns out that while he lives very happily ensconced in a hotel near Heathrow, the Crowne Plaza no less, which would have cost probably quite a few £100 to stay in, basically this guy who's now been unveiled as an Afghan refugee called Karwiz Hanifyar. He's also done, apparently, a video about how to kill your wife and get away with it. So he's a really, really pleasant character, this guy. I mean, absolutely and utterly unbelievable, isn't it? 0344 499 1000 is the number. Let's get a voice note from James.
Good morning, Mike. I am so disappointed, Mike, in our king. He is such a wokey now. He's nothing like his mum. And the way that when he went on about, oh, it's irregular migration. Irregular. I mean, do me a cheesy quaver. Stick your head out that window every so often, Mr. King, and then you'll see. Absolutely disgraceful. Anyway, Mike, have a lovely weekend. Plank of the week, superb!
Yeah, Plank of the week coming up tonight, by the way, 7 o'clock. Don't forget. We'll play a clip from that coming up as well. It is absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? Benedict Spence is here, political commentator. Benedict, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Very good to see you. Well, I've been quite exercised this week, I have to say. Quite wound up. For all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it just gets to you, you know, you just kind of go, what on earth is going on? Let me just show you this, if I may, before we start talking. This is Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelensky yesterday. And believe it or not, this was actually put out by Downing Street because they thought it was a good thing. Check it out.
This one moment of indiscretion.
Exactly.
Nobody's watching.
You know,
no one need ever know.
I went to Downing Street by accident.
Yeah, but I mean, what I particularly like is the bit where they're sort of posing in front of the giant globe of the world and pointing at things.
Yeah.
They were unaware of where perhaps Ukraine might be.
I know. But it's so kind of ham-fisted and ridiculous and pointless. I don't know who they think they're appealing to with that sort of rubbish.
No, of course, and also the fact that they're sort of sat having tea in what appears to be a flower garden. I mean, nothing says macho and, you know, taking the war against Putin seriously than sitting having tea in a flower garden.
Right.
But, I mean, given that they'd started off by hugging, I suspect that this is aimed at the sort of person who believes that actually the root of all men's problems is just pent-up tension and that they could do with going to therapy.
Yeah.
That's probably who's thought this through, thinking actually what we need is a little bit more kumbaya in your life.
Yeah.
Rather than I don't know.
I know, but it's so embarrassing for me as a person from Britain to see my Prime Minister, who I didn't vote for, by the way, so I call him my Prime Minister because he is. It's kind of it's sort of humiliating for the entire country, isn't it?
It is. I mean, again, they just replayed the picture of them with the globe and they're pointing, and you just think, I mean, what on earth is Starmer saying? Yes, there's Crimea. We invaded it as well. I mean, what on earth could you possibly get from this? It's. The fact of the matter is, it's because neither of these men are actually in Alaska. They're not in the discussions. They're not with Putin in the room. Europe has been sidelined. Ukraine has effectively been sidelined. And Britain, I can't remember the last time we were actually relevant on this stage.
No.
It is all about trying to project something that isn't there. Ultimately, both of these countries, ours and Ukraine, have been completely sidelined in all of this. I mean, it's obviously worse for the Ukrainians because theirs is the country that's been invaded. But Britain, we used to be the major military power, and then we used to be the second major military power. Where are we? We're not relevant.
No, exactly, because whatever's going on in Anchorage, you know, that is where you want to be. You know, it's Donald Trump, it's Vladimir Putin, it's the two superpowers of the world. You know, the people are missing in China, and we are literally an also-ran, and it's kind of sad in a way.
It is, and it's interesting because, you know, we had the growth figures that came out yesterday. You know, again, 0.3% growth, which basically means recession. And you sort of step back and you look at what Britain used to be, this sort of titan of industry, this, you know, major commercial power, and we've just sort of slowed to nothing. We're not actually in recession, not a major one. We're not going forward. Nothing's getting better. Nothing's getting sort of drastically worse. It's just slowly worse. That's what's sort of very painful about all of this. There's all sorts of potential for Britain to be a major military power or a major diplomatic power if it wants to be. As much as anything else, it just seems to be that our political class has decided to stand still and wring its hands. And that's ultimately what is so frustrating. We're not yet in free fall. It could be averted, the crisis that's coming. But they still choose to put out these nonsense things where you're sat there watching and thinking, oh yes, we're standing very firmly behind Ukraine by putting out a video, and we're doing nothing else. And you just think that's the key thing, isn't it? A government that just does nothing.
Yes. I mean, the fear that a lot of people expressed to me yesterday when they knew that Zelensky was coming to Downing Street, and the fear that many people have said to me overnight, is that, you know, Starmer will sign yet another cheque and there'll be more billions being paid to Ukraine, which we really don't have. And that's the other kind of fallacy that they're purporting to suggest, is that, no, not only are we at the centre of things, but we're also in a position to give money to a country which literally eats it for breakfast. You know, I don't know where all these billions go, but they certainly have had many billions from us, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this week, you know, Keir Starmer's given him another 3 or 4 billion.
Well, I mean, there was a reason, wasn't there, that there were protests in Ukraine after the government tried to change the rules around their own corruption commission.
Yes.
Because even before this war started, if you had any criticisms of Ukraine, the top one right at the start would be, it's kind of a corrupt place. A lot of money does seem to disappear, and there are rather a lot of oligarchs. That's only got worse as the war's gone on. Of course it has, because actually corruption always goes up during wartime. There's plenty more opportunity to nick things. And, you know, it's fine if it's the United States to a degree. You know, if it decides it wants to waste $1 billion here, there, or everywhere, that's what it does. It has huge amounts of money to do these things, especially on military endeavours. But we just don't. And again, we're getting to that sort of precipice where actually there is going to be a full-blown financial crisis in this country. We're not there yet, but we are right on the edge. And as you say, even now, more money for this war, more money for the Chagos, more money for people who want a free car because their kid's got ADHD. We simply cannot keep spending like this.
I know, and it's absolutely and utterly ridiculous. But here we are with a government which is run by complete and utter morons, right? Have a look at what Rachel Reeves said yesterday about the GDP figures.
Today's numbers show that the economy beat expectations in the second quarter of this year. We are the fastest growing economy in the G7 for the first half of this year, with a GDP growth of 0.3% this quarter, and that's after GDP growth of 0.7% the quarter before that. Look, I recognise there's still more to do to make sure that people in all parts of the country benefit from that growth, but since the general election, when I became Chancellor, the economy has grown by 1.2%, and GDP per capita, so for every person in the country, GDP per capita is up by 0.7%. So encouraging numbers today, but of course we need to build on that to make sure people in all parts of the country are better off.
I mean, 1, they're not encouraging numbers. 2, the economy is going down the gurgler. 3, it may well be that they're better than other countries, but it doesn't make them actually any good.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to sort of sit there and say we're doing better than anybody else in the G7, and then you look at what other countries in the G7 are doing for their own economic purposes, and you realise, oh, this is actually because everybody seems to be doing some pretty insane things. It's not because actually we're smarter than everybody else. That's not great. I mean, this is the thing. You can't sort of sit there and say, yes, growth over my period in time in office is about 1%. When you've come into government saying there's a £20 billion black hole in my budget, and then about a year later you've turned around and gone, that budget hole, it's more than doubled. It's actually got so much worse that I need to find a way of plugging it, because you wouldn't have to if you were going for proper pro-growth policies. I think this really has to be said. It's not real growth. Real growth is when you're around 3 or 4%, because you've got so many other factors to take into account, especially if your national debt is going up as ours is. We haven't had that since, I don't know, certainly sort of pre-2008, I would have thought. We've been in a very long-term holding pattern, sort of, where we've been staving off a proper financial crisis, but we've been effectively atrophying. We've been effectively regressing. All the while, other major competitors, places places like China, places like India, that once upon a time, within living memory, were behind us, have just shot out in front of us. And, we can be as happy as we want about outdoing places like Germany, which has closed all of its nuclear power stations. But that's not actually a win. Cost of living, GDP per capita is worse in the UK now than it is in Italy. Our national debt is a lot worse than a lot of those southern European countries were at the turn of the century. That's not something to be proud about.
No, it really isn't. And I mean, the kind of self-delusion that goes on, where clearly they sit around in Downing Street congratulating themselves about things that they think they've done well, when in fact the rest of the country is looking on and sort of holding their head in their hands going, how much worse can it get? I mean, are they the most tone-deaf government of all time?
They're certainly up there, aren't they? They're certainly up there. But the problem is we are comparing them to the previous lot, who actually were, the grand idea of the Conservatives right at the end, when they were heading for electoral oblivion, was, well, why don't we have national service? But it's not national service. Nobody actually has to show up, and it doesn't necessarily involve any military activity at all. And everybody was kind of sat there going, really? That's how you're going to win an election? These are probably worse because they're more ideologically driven in Labour, but that they are following on from a particularly bad vintage of the Conservatives. But don't get me wrong, we've got 4 more years of this lot. It will get worse because they will revert more and more to ideology as things begin to spiral.
Yeah, and just one final thing for you, just as if that all wasn't bad enough. Birmingham City Council supposedly telling people that they have to remove their St George's flags and Union flags from various lampposts and things, because apparently they're putting motorists and pedestrians at risk.
Yeah, this is the same local authority that just lit up its municipal library in the colours of the Pakistani flag to celebrate Pakistan independence. But the UK, the Union flag and the Cross of St George, these are all dangerous. I think we are possibly the only country in the world that does this. Almost every other country is proud of its flag, flies its flag regularly in municipal buildings, from people's houses. Go to Greece, go to Turkey, go to the United States. People have it in their front lawn. They have the stars and stripes. Ours is, honestly, it must be the only one that I can think of where flying your flag is considered potentially offensive, potentially dangerous, and where local busybodies get in touch and say, take it down. But the flag of almost any other country you can fly, and people will go, oh, isn't that nice? It's tolerant and it's diverse.
I know, absolutely incredible stuff. Benedict, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Political commentator Benedict Spence there talking to us about the state of the nation, which on Friday, the 15th of August, is really not in a very good place. Let's get a voice note from Tony.
Morning, Mike. Tony from Stoke-on-Trent, mate. Great show as usual, although it's very frustrating. As you know, I'm a driver. I'm up at 3:30 every morning to go and earn my tax. And my van was overweight on Wednesday, so I swapped routes with another driver because he drives taco. And I went down to Wolverhampton and Walsall, down that area, instead of up north. And as we're driving around Willenhall and Wednesbury and the places like that, there's all these St George crosses hanging from lampposts everywhere. I never realised that it was VJ Day today. But I thought, as I was driving around, I just thought, this is brilliant. We should have these flags all over the lampposts, all over the country. It looked brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then yesterday, when I get home from work, I see that the Birmingham Council are taking all these flags down and then just plastering the council building with Pakistani flags. I mean, what's going on with this country, mate? Yeah. Where does it all end? Where does it all end, Mike? Keep up the good work, mate.
Yeah, I know. Tony, thank you very much indeed. It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, you scarcely believe it. I'm the same as, I'm like you, whenever I see Union Jacks flying or England flags flying, you think, oh, that's actually really nice. I quite like that. You see it in Scotland all the time. There's always flags of St Andrew going over the place. You go to Wales, there's flags of St David going all over the place. But, to take flags down on the basis that they're somehow a distraction or a danger to motorists, which we know is not the case, right? But yet, what they can do is project the Pakistani flag to represent and to celebrate Pakistani National Day is just anathema, surely, to anybody who lives in Britain. If you come from Pakistan and you come and live in Britain, you're very welcome to celebrate your own Pakistani Day if you want to. But it's not a British thing. Don't make the council get involved in it. You know, the council have got no business telling everybody else that they should celebrate Pakistani Day. We don't celebrate Pakistani Day here. We're not from Pakistan. If you went to Pakistan, do you celebrate St George's Day? You know, do they have like a few England flags that they fly on St George's Day and go, yeah, well, we love it. We absolutely love it in Pakistan. We celebrate St George's Day every year. What a load of old cobblers. Reeves, Masters in a degree in economics. Did she mean home economics? Well, maybe we better check in with her to see. Ask Rachel Reeves whether she's an economist. Check it out.
Well, I'm an economist. I studied economics. I got a master's in economics from the London School of Economics, and I worked as an economist at the Bank of England.
Yeah, sure you did. Great, brilliant. Meanwhile, the economy's going down the gurgler. 7:20.
Shoplifting on our high streets, in our inner city centres, these responsibilities and duties should be outsourced to ordinary members of the public. And I have a real problem with that, because firstly, it seems like we're ultimately giving up on the bread and butter of neighbourhood policing, especially when it comes to crime such as shoplifting, which, to be honest, on many high streets, shoplifting has become de facto decriminalised. Such as the absence of neighbourhood policing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:23. I'm Mike Graham. It is Friday the 15th of August, ladies and gentlemen. We've had quite a week, haven't we? It's been quite extraordinary what's been going on this week. Not least the TikTok migrant who made a star of himself in the Sun newspaper by filming himself coming over from France into Britain last Saturday, filmed himself on the dinghy, filmed himself arriving in the hotel that he ended up in, which is the Crown Plaza near Heathrow. It now turns out that not only has he been doing all of that as an influencer on TikTok, where he's got about 70,000 followers. He's also been giving advice to people on how to kill their wives. But he's still sitting in the hotel. He's still eating your food. He's still being given money by the public purse. He's still able to wander around at will around the area of Heathrow. And he's, I'm sure, having a lovely time. Well, surely he should be rounded up and he should be arrested and he should be deported forthwith. Keir Starmer last Friday said basically that anyone who enters this country illegally, which this guy did, will be apprehended, will be arrested, will be detained and will then be deported. Well, that was clearly a lie, wasn't it? Because this guy hasn't been arrested, he hasn't been detained and he hasn't been deported. Instead, he's living in the Crown Plaza in Heathrow, telling people how to kill their wives and get away with it. Unbelievable. Good morning, Mike, says Nikki. Rachel Thieves made sure there was no one stood behind her when she made her speech to pull faces and show how people feel. Keep up the good work. And this one from Deborah in North Yorkshire. Mike, have you noticed that Rachel from accounts has changed her hair colour and has grown it longer? Is this an attempt to shake off the Richard III tag? Great show. Have a good weekend. Well, you know, every time I see her, her hair's a different colour. I think she's got a need of a new stylist where they can actually keep the colour the same. Now, Steve says this, absolute mindless babble from a lying, clueless so-called Chancellor on the same day our lying, clueless Prime Minister is being tapped up for a few more billions by Zelensky. Britain deserves more than these clowns. It really does. We are led, I'm afraid, by donkeys. Funnily enough, there's an organisation called Led by Donkeys, but they never criticise the Labour government. All they do is criticise Donald Trump now, because now that Labour are in, they can't really say very much about it. Let's talk to James Cartledge MP, Shadow Secretary of State for Defence. James, very good morning to you.
Good morning, a pleasure as always, Mike.
Very nice to see you. Things are going from bad to worse, it would seem. Rachel Reeves thinks that we're doing really well, thinks the economy's booming, says that we're the fastest growing economy in the G7, which we may well be, but it's not really amounting to very much. What do you make of the Starmer-Zelensky meeting yesterday, and are we going to end up having to pay a bunch more money to the Ukrainians?
Well, look, I mean, when you talk about the situation in Ukraine, you have to remember this is a country that is being bombed routinely. Its cities, its countryside, its people, its armed forces are in a struggle where the casualty figures are astronomical. This is something we all want to see peace. We want to see a lasting peace. But of course, you know, that is not easy to achieve in a situation like this. For me, the clear thing is that Russia's the aggressor. They invaded a free, democratic, sovereign nation, and you know, I want to see peace. I want to see successful talks to achieve that. But it has to be a lasting peace, and one where Russia isn't seen in any way to gain from its unprovoked invasion.
No, indeed. And those are all very fine words, but an awful lot of people say to me, that's all very well, but we haven't got any money, and why do we keep having to give money to Ukraine when we can't afford it?
Well, Mike, I mean, we'd have to give an awful lot more money and much more besides if Russia had succeeded in invading Ukraine and was now going beyond that, as history suggests that's what dictators do. On a day like this, the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, surely we seek to learn from history, and it is that you have to stand up to dictators and bullies. We helped Ukraine to do that. We've not been directly involved in the fighting, but we've done an enormous amount, and yes, it has cost us money, but it would have cost us far more, and our allies, if we'd allowed Russia to take Kyiv and to conquer Ukraine, and then Europe itself would have been under threat.
Yeah, OK. But, I mean, how much longer does it go on for then?
Well, obviously, I don't know that. We want the war to end. The problem is that you have an aggressor that's invaded a country, has its land, it wants to protect that, it wants to keep those gains. Ukraine obviously wants that land back. It's the classic problem in a situation like this, very, very difficult, especially when the war is still ongoing. We're still, you know, there's still a huge conflict, casualties every day. I think Russia's now surpassed 1 million casualties killed or wounded in action. So it's an extraordinarily significant scale of military clash that we have here, and ending that is not straightforward. This isn't a game. This is the consequences of what happens are going to be very significant. For me, it's an absolute priority. Learn from history. Don't allow aggressors to gain from their aggression. That's what history shows us today of all days, and I think we do have to continue standing up to Putin and giving Ukraine our strong support.
Yeah. I mean, in our position, I suppose, would be the next question. We're much diminished as a country. We can't defend our own borders. We're trying to defend other people's borders. We're trying to pretend that we're still a growing force in the world. Are we not sort of kidding ourselves, though, a little bit?
I don't agree with that, Mike. And look, all respect to you personally, I'm very proud of what our country did in Ukraine. I mean, the thing you have to remember here is, of course, after the end of the Cold War, 1989, when the Berlin Wall came down, we all thought this was a new era of peace. So countries started reducing their defence spending. You know, back in 1985, when Gorbachev entered the Kremlin, we were spending 5% of GDP on defence, and I mean on defence, not on a load of nonsense that isn't actually defence. We had a much greater military force, of course, but that's because we thought we needed it. And then when we had the end of the Cold War, we thought we didn't need it to the same degree, and so yes, our military spending went down, but we still did a huge amount when Ukraine was invaded. And if we hadn't done that, and you know, Russia had rolled into Kyiv and conquered the whole of Ukraine, I don't think they'd have stopped there, and Europe would have been in a sort of late 1930s situation. So I'm proud of the role we played of that, but it is far from over, as you say, and we've got to now find how on earth we bring this to an end.
Interesting. Ministry of Defence today have released a story in which they say that there was a nuclear incident that took place at Faslane Naval Base earlier this year. Do you know anything about this? Can you help us out with it? What sort of event was it, and were people in danger at any time?
Very fair question. I can understand some people, people will be concerned about this. I don't know the detail. I had a nuclear portfolio when I was at the MOD, and there is a regulator who there will be a process to look into this. But obviously, it is a very sensitive area. Faslane is a critical base to our nuclear deterrence. But hopefully, the government will be revealing more as they are able to. But unlike some who use this for political ends, if I may say, for example, the SNP, I think when you have an incident like this, you have to respect the fact that it is in a very sensitive situation. Having said that, there is a balance to strike, and I hope that the government can tell us more about what's happened to reassure the public.
Yes. Well, it doesn't surprise me the SNP have made a complete, rick of everything that they ever touch. I mean, John Swinney yesterday was putting out a message saying the refugees are welcome in Scotland, and I'm not quite sure why he was doing that when the rest of us are all saying, actually, refugees might well be welcome in Britain, but what we don't want is a load of, nasty, ghastly, horrible criminals coming to this country and living high on the hog, like this guy who's currently in a hotel in Heathrow, who's giving out advice on how to kill your wife.
Well, I heard what you said at the beginning of the piece, and I'm not on TikTok, and I haven't seen the actual videos this person has recorded that you referred to. I don't doubt that for a minute. I think it just shows once again the fundamental issue here. We've got to stop these crossings at source. And I've said it before on your show how frustrated I was as a government MP before we lost the election that we couldn't get these measures through to deliver the Rwanda scheme. I think it was the right idea, and it was frustrating that it was opposed at every step in terms of legal opposition, and of course from Labour, and particularly and therefore in the House of Lords, and it meant we couldn't legislate in the way we had wanted to, and I very much regret that. But now that Keir Starmer has got into power, having opposed Rwanda, having scrapped it, it's on him now what is happening. He's got to come up with his alternative. He said he'd smash the gangs. It's completely meaningless waffle. Everyone can see that, especially when you get cases like the one you're referring to.
Yeah, absolutely right. James, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. James Cartledge, MP, Shadow Secretary of State for Defence, talking to us down in College Green there on the Westminster estate. Sideshow Starmer and Zelensky are the Meghan and Harry to Trump and Putin, says Sarah in Morden. Brilliant. Putting out pointless, touchy-feely videos for attention when the important people get on with the real stuff. I think that's right. You can see him, couldn't you? Keir Starmer, with love, Keir. A bit like Meghan. He's a bit like me. He's more like Meghan Markle, isn't he, than he is like Prince Harry. Gary says this, morning, Mike. That idiot Rachel Reeves wants everyone to benefit from that tiny bit of growth in the economy, and then she wants to tax everyone to the max. This woman is a complete moron, says Gary in Shrewsbury. Yeah, well, this is the thing. They're going on about how great the economy's doing, and then they're going, oh, yeah, but it's not doing that well because we're going to have to tax you a load more in November. We're going to have to batten down the hatches. Keith in Lincolnshire says, Mike, love the show every day. That false Wallace and Gromit smile on Rachel Thieves' face winds me up, no end. Now, listen, coming up, we're going to be talking to Freddie Gray from the US editor of The Spectator about the Alaskan summit, which is taking place later on today between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. Here's what Trump said, though, because this is Gaff-Prone Friday. Even he makes gaffes once in a while. Have a look at this.
This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday.
I'm going to see Putin in Russia. No, you go to Alaska. Sorry, Mr. President. God bless him. It's 7:34.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:36. This is good from Anthony. He says, no problem helping Ukraine financially, but it's a very rich country, the breadbasket of the world, so why not agree long-term loans instead of continuing to hand over billions of pounds that, frankly, the UK can't afford? The UK only recently finished paying off USA for World War II loans. It's a good point. You know, we haven't got bottomless pits of money. And we certainly don't have the influence that we used to have in this country. And I appreciate James Cartledge didn't really agree with me on any of that. But, you know, I know that many of you listening to this show and watching it will say, hang on a minute, why are we giving all this money to Ukraine to fight Russia? You know, and on the one hand, you've got people saying, you know, they've lost 1 million people, the Russians. Well, we're not giving them any money. You know, we don't really care about them, apparently. So 1 million Russians die, we give them nothing. But, you know, we give money to Ukraine to support them. I think it doesn't make any sense, I'm afraid. One of the stories we've got this morning on the front page of the Daily Telegraph is that a Labour-run council in Birmingham have ordered the removal of Union and St George's flags from lampposts because they claim that basically they're unauthorised attachments to street furniture. I mean, everybody knows that's BS, right? They're basically saying that they want to take them down because they're upsetting people. Meanwhile, they're projecting the Pakistani flag all over a load of buildings because apparently it was Pakistani National Day the other day. Here's what Keir Starmer had to say about reclaiming the flag. This is back in April.
We should always fight for our flag. It's our flag, it's our history, our heritage, it's our values. So we should always fight for that flag. I recognise that people want to see a country that's secure in all aspects, secure borders, secure economy, and secure in terms of people's health and opportunities. That is part and parcel of what we are as a country. But there is this battle for the flag. There are some people who want to use it, you know, cause conflict, to use it as it was used in some of the riots last year. I don't think we should give up on our flag. We should reclaim it. It belongs not to me as Prime Minister, not to the government, not to the Labour Party, not to any political party. It belongs to all of us, and we should be proud of it.
Maybe you should ask Emily Thornberry what she thinks about it. Yeah, remember her? Old former Attorney General, as a shadow Attorney General, who I think is now in the House of Lords. She doesn't like the English flag very much. She thinks people that wave it around are thick, stupid white people. But that's just the Labour Party, isn't it? Let's talk to Freddie Gray, US editor of The Spectator. Freddie, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Nice to see you.
Good to talk to you. Nice to see you. Big event today. Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump getting together in Alaska, in Anchorage, to try and find some kind of resolution. I don't think anyone really expects there to be one. Do you?
Well, no, but I think it could nonetheless be quite a historic moment. I mean, from the Russian point of view, they want it to be about a lot more than Ukraine. They want it to be a sort of resetting of relations between America and Russia, right. And the Trump administration don't feel entirely differently. They think that quite an important part of their foreign policy is to try and peel Russia away from China. Yeah. They're much more concerned about China in the long term than they are about Russia, and indeed, in fact, Ukraine, even though, of course, Ukraine is very serious. So I think part of the agenda today will be Ukraine. That's the reason for the meeting. That's the most important part of the meeting. But I think you might also see some big statement about the Arctic, about some sort of energy alliance, some sort of national investment. I mean, the head of Russia's sovereign wealth fund is going, who's Putin's envoy for the meeting. I think you could see some sort of big announcement about the future of Russian and American cooperation, which makes a lot of people in Europe very, very nervous because we've been very anti-Russia for a long time, with some very good reasons. But the problem for Europe is Europe and Britain, is that we seem to be increasingly irrelevant in this conversation between great world powers.
Well, that does seem to be a striking fact this morning as we look around and see what Keir Starmer's doing. You know, he's busy hugging Vladimir Zelensky in Downing Street and making out that we stand together with Ukraine in all matters, in all senses, and without any kind of critical faculty, it seems, whatsoever, which kind of puts our government, in some ways, at odds with the Americans, doesn't it?
Well, it does a little bit. I mean, don't think Trump is particularly upset by that. I think it's sort of understood that European powers are supporting Zelensky. But it's also understood that European powers don't really have the kit. They don't have the money, the kit to support Zelensky. It's really only America that can make a material difference in this conflict on the Western side.
Right.
And doesn't look like Europe's going to change that anytime soon. So a lot of it is really just signalling. I'm not going to use the word virtue signalling. It's just signalling. It's not real intent. It's
I mean, obviously, I suppose the fear is that there will be some kind of deal done with the Russians, which will have an effect on Europe and indeed on NATO and on the EU to some extent. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the land swaps are a concern. Trump took great pains to reassure European leaders that, the territorial significance wouldn't be a sort of threat to NATO as such. We're not going to see any agreement on territorial concessions today because Zelensky is not in the room. And Trump agrees with Zelensky that without the Ukrainians being involved, there's going to be no decisions made.
Right.
This is sort of what he calls a laying the table meeting. But if he can lay the table for a meeting with Zelensky, the onus is then on Zelensky. Is he going to stand in the way of peace? Because it will be him standing in the way of peace.
Yeah. I mean, it seems unlikely that there will be any kind of agreement about Ukraine with Putin, which doesn't involve him taking some land.
Unfortunately, it does seem impossible. I mean, everybody says you can't reward the aggressor. Putin's in the wrong.
Yeah.
That's all true, and that's all right. But unfortunately, in war, historically, aggressors have been rewarded.
Right.
They are winning the war. They have to be rewarded. That's the way it works. Or you can just have thousands of people dying every month for a very, very long time. And I think that's a terrible, terrible policy to want to keep this war going in a kind of slow, horrible, grinding out stalemate in which Russia eventually probably wins. But lots and lots of people have to die. Well,
they can certainly keep it going for as long as they want to, it would seem, because they've got a never-ending supply of sort of conscripts that keep being told that they have to go to war. What about the sort of financial incentives? The Times have got a piece this morning saying economic incentives are going to be offered by Trump to Putin. But you also know that Trump, everything he does is kind of governed by his requirement, shall we say, to make money out of something.
Well, very much so, and I think that's why you have that head of the sovereign wealth fund, Russian head of the sovereign wealth fund, going with Putin, because I think they understand that if Trump listens to big money numbers, so we're going to, tell him you'll invest $3 trillion into the United States, and he'll change his mind about a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I think on the American side, I think there's a lot of it's punitive more than anything else. They're saying they won't impose secondary sanctions on Russian allies, which is what really brought Russia to the table this time, I believe. It's sanctions on India, which is a huge buyer of Russian oil. Secondary sanctions made Putin nervous. They made the Russians want to come to an arrangement quick. Russia is in a strong position economically because it doesn't have very much debt, but it is finally beginning to suffer quite seriously as a result of this war. So they do have economic concerns.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we should keep an eye on it throughout the course of the day. Freddie, good to talk to you. Thank you very much, Steve. Freddie Gray, US editor of The Spectator. David Bristol says this morning, Mike, the action of Birmingham Council enforcing the removal of Union flag for some Trump nonsensical reason whilst lighting up municipal buildings in the colours of Pakistan is disgraceful and disrespectful. Above all, it is disrespectful to the men and women of this country and others who endured hideous privations and fought the Japanese alongside allies to prevent that country from taking over that part of the world. This action is bad enough normally, but to do it now as we celebrate VJ Day is despicable. We do celebrate VJ Day on the front pages of the papers as well. This one from Andy in Mansfield. He says, my working life started at the age of 16 on the 1st of September 1970. Reeves and Stormy seem to be following the very same course as that taken by Wilson and Callaghan. It doesn't end well for them. We had Maggie to put things right, and now we have Nigel. Fingers crossed I can live long enough to cast my vote against this bunch of idiots. A lot of people feeling very angry this morning about the Labour government. Great show as usual. If it was a British person who posted a video on social media about killing their wives, they would be arrested in a second, says Bob. Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous that this bloke is languishing and living very highly on the hog, very nicely, thank you very much indeed, in the Crown Plaza at Heathrow. right? Not only did he break into the country illegally, not only was he not detained, which the government said they would do, not only has he not been deported while he was being detained, he's actually now managed to make it all the way to Heathrow, where he's living in a very nice hotel, being treated to 3 meals a day and being given spending money to go out and spend in that part of the world. Meanwhile, he tells you on TikTok, quite proudly, how to kill your wife. What an absolute scumbag. Let's get a voice note from Tristan.
Mike, just seeing that video of Zelensky and our idiot Prime Minister, I mean, I don't know what they're trying to show, but it just looks absolutely pathetic. And Benedict is right. We could actually do things. We could actually stop this decarbonisation, actually start drilling the North Sea and taking the gas that we have underneath us. We could actually deregulate and start building things, but obviously we can't because we're obsessed with net zero, which is costing our energy bills a fortune, which means businesses have to pay an absolute fortune. So we could actually change things if we wanted to.
Yeah, I agree with that. We could. But the trouble is, there's nobody with any brains or any kind of, you know, idealism or any cojones in Downing Street to actually make those changes. Here's one from Keith who says, Mike, the powers that be are missing a trick with this TikTok dingy boy. If he's got so many followers that he's advertising this country to, why don't the authorities arrest him, take his phone and film his deportation live to all his fans and show that we will send people back? Good idea. I like the sound of that. Let's do it. You know, TikTok returns. I think that would be a hit, wouldn't it? 0344 499 1000. Coming up, we're going to talk to Lubna Farhan. It's a talk exclusive. We're going to be speaking to the ex-Apprentice star, author and YouTuber whose life has been made an absolute misery because basically she spoke out about Pakistani grooming gangs and now they're all after her and they want to kill her for saying it. Unbelievable stuff. It's all coming next.
If you're an asylum seeker, you get given something called an HC2 certificate,
That's
which
the one, yeah.
qualifies you for all that kind of stuff. Dentists, some prescriptions, all free of charge. Not only that, but you're allowed to claim the cost of travel to go to a hospital or a surgery or so on. Now, these certificates, HC2 certificates, are given out to some UK citizens, but 2/3 of them at present are being given to asylum seekers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to 10 minutes to 8 in the morning. It's Friday the 15th of August. It's a beautiful weekend coming up, I think, so you are going to be able to enjoy yourself, hopefully. Starmer wasn't warm and friendly to his Chancellor when she was crying her eyes out, says Colin. And this one from Mark in Leeds. He says, morning, Mike. I totally agree with you about this good news from Rachel Thieves. Yep, they are taking the P. I'm not a high earner, and I want to leave this broken, wasted, woke country. I'm a proud Englishman, but I'm so ashamed of what it's become. These deceitful muppets need to go, and it's still not too late to turn this country around, but the clock is ticking. Well, there's a lot of things wrong with what's going on at the moment in the country, and I'm about to speak now to somebody who can tell you an even more scary story. It's Lubna Farhan. Lubna, very good morning to you. Good to see you. Yes. You're here, former Apprentice star, to talk to us about grooming gangs, rape gangs as we call them. You're from the Muslim Pakistani community. You've been speaking out about it, and as a result of that, you found yourself in a pretty sticky situation.
A very dire situation. So just a small slight correction, my name is Lubna Zaidi, so I'm a single parent now. I think at the time of The Apprentice I was a married lady.
Right.
So my situation is very dire. I was born and raised in Luton, and sadly I've had to flee Luton very recently because of death threats coming from people from my own race and faith. So I was raised as a Muslim. I do believe in God, but I'm not religious. I would say I'm more secular. And my parents were born in Pakistan, I was born in England. So what happened is when I came out of The Apprentice in 2019, I started a YouTube channel. It's called Candid with Lubna. And because I felt like as if this country is divided and the situation seems very, very dire. Like people are talking about civil war, this kind of stuff. So eventually I started talking about things which I felt could help build bridges between people from my race and religion and the native white English people. So the way I feel is that people from my background can do more to build bridges, and I started doing that by condemning the bad people from within the community.
Well, the condemning thing is important, isn't it? Because we hear this a lot, particularly when there's terrorist attacks or whenever there's an Islamic problem in the country. We always say, and we always hear people say, why doesn't the local community, the Pakistani community, condemn what's going on?
Exactly.
And so,
I agree.
So it doesn't happen a lot, does it?
It doesn't happen a lot, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be that spark. And you know, we always hear about the good apples and the good Muslims, and most Muslims are peaceful. Oh well, fantastic. Where are they? Because I've been getting death threats. People turned up at my door. I've had to leave my hometown. Obviously, I'm not telling anyone where I am. I'm not openly going out there in the public either, because I don't know. I literally trust nobody. And sadly, I was hoping that this would be an opportunity for the Muslim community, the Pakistani community, to come out and condemn and say they condemn what the extremists did. Sadly, I experienced the opposite. So the majority of Muslims and Pakistanis coming underneath my YouTube videos have been saying, oh, we support what's happened to her. Thank God she's not going to be doing YouTube anymore. And I'm thinking, wow, you don't sound very peaceful and very moderate. Where are the moderate Muslims gone? So what these people do is they support the extremists. So in their mind, they think that they are the peaceful, moderate Muslims, but they're supporting the extremists. So in my eyes, you're as bad as the people threatening me. And so I am very disappointed in the people living in this country who were maybe born here, but I don't think have integrated and assimilated the way that they should have. And frankly, if that's their attitude, they don't belong in this country. And I'm going to stand by that. You know, just because there are illegal migrants coming in who maybe were born in the same country as my parents or were raised in the same faith as me doesn't mean that I'm happy with illegal migrants coming into this country. I'm sorry, these people are a security threat. And the grooming gangs, the gang rape gangs, let's talk about that. Why can I not condemn those people? It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
I've always said this, right? How is it possible that anybody, you know, when we talk about, you know, things like the Labour Party and local Labour councillors and Labour politicians in general have been kind of squeamish about having a go at Pakistani grooming gangs because they're worried that they're going to upset Muslims. You know, why would Muslims not want to condemn them? That's what I've always said. Why would you not, in any situation, want to be critical of somebody who rapes an 8-year-old girl or a 12-year-old girl? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
I think the thing is there's a mixture of things. So there is a lot of ignorance where the community, and I was one of those people who didn't necessarily understand the ins and outs of exactly what these horrible, disgusting rapists actually did to little children here. And then when even they do know is sadly where there are the lefties who are giving my people from my background an excuse and saying, you know, you're not the issue, it's the right, it's the far right. They're blaming it on you because there are rapists everywhere. That is not helping the situation. But also there's this massive thing about honour. So if you accept there's an issue, you are dishonouring the community. You're dishonouring people from your background. And so what these people, and this happens in Pakistan all the time, is the way they deal with it is by shutting people up. You shut people up and then you pretend the issue's going to go away. But as we can see in this country, things are getting worse and worse. So I'm sorry, as someone who's born here and as someone who loves this country, you know, I feel like it's my duty to speak up. I think we can do more. We need to condemn the bad apples within the community. It's very simple. It's not really complicated more than that. So I don't know what the issue is. So all I can say to the Muslims and Pakistanis listening to this, shame on you. I've had to flee my home because of you guys. And now these people are going to play the Islamophobia card. Ooh, it's racism, Islamophobia. And I find, generally speaking, the Pakistani community to be one of the most racist people. Having been raised, you know, in both communities. Yes, of course, there are people who are white and racist, because you get racist in all races. But to live here and then complain, go back to where you came from. I'm sorry if you're having an issue living here.
Is there a problem with Pakistani men and young women in terms of a cultural kind of understanding that they may have, that, you know, having sex with underage girls is okay? Is that like a thing?
I think in Pakistan the age where you can get married is legally 14, so there is that difference between UK and some people who are fresh off the boat may not know that difference. But also I would say that, of course, there are cultural differences, but also the people living, for example, in Pakistan, they also have like a fetish for white girls generally, because they watch porn and they have all these fantasies and stuff. And what they hear about the Western culture is, okay, there are white girls wearing skirts and stuff, so that means they're asking for it, and therefore it's, you know, and so they do find that here as well. But, you know, it's absolutely disgusting. I think people, especially the children born in this country, should do more to educate these people from within their own background to say, look, this is not acceptable here. Keep playing the Islamophobia card and racism card. It's not going to work anytime longer, I think, because people are talking about civil war now. I mean, what are we waiting for? Like, are we going to wait for a civil war before we're going to start speaking up? So there are a few good Muslims who have supported me and they get it. And you don't have to agree with everything that I say to support my channel, what I'm doing. My channel's name is Candid with Lubna. However, come on, guys, condemn the bad apples, the grooming gangs, extremists, the people who are asking for Sharia law. I mean, you've got a whole country, Pakistan, it's got 200 million plus people. Build that country. I mean, that country is in need of being built. So I don't know why these people are coming here and then complaining and trying to make as if they're doing us all a favour. I'd rather they weren't here, to be honest.
Exactly. And what do you make of Labour's plan to define Islamophobia, to try and have a definition for it?
I think this is ridiculous. I think that the people from my race and religion are very intolerant anyway, and you're giving them more excuses to justify their intolerance by having Islamophobia definitions and things like that. So I don't know what they're trying to get at. I don't like the direction this country's going in. Look, I'm condemning the bad apples. I don't even say anything bad about the religion at all, because I know how crazy and psychos people from my faith are. I just condemn the bad apples, and even that has been so intolerant where I've literally had to leave my town. That's unacceptable. This is the future of UK. I'm sorry if I'm scaring people. People need to be scared. This is the future of the UK. I have had to move now. You guys are going to have to move later.
Are you worried that that's going to be a problem then for everyone?
It already is.
This is kind of, you know, the encroachment of Muslim communities onto the rest of Britain.
Yes, I would say, what has the police done to help me? What has anyone done to help me? So I literally have no choice now but to get support from more people as a form of protection for myself now, because I feel like, you know, I'm trying to do a good deed. I'm trying to help the community, because they don't realise that if, God forbid, a civil war breaks out, I'm going to get attacked from both sides, because I'm going to get attacked from people who are calling me, you know, a traitor from my background. And then also there are obviously those people on the right, white people, some people, minority, that are not going to accept me either. So I'm going to get bashed from both sides. So I'm saying let's kind of like avoid that situation. Let's condemn the bad people. Let's do more to help the government. And if you are siding with extremists, like if you're coming underneath my videos and you're saying that, we're so happy she's gone, we're not an extremist, we're a moderate Muslim, but if you're not condemning the people threatening me, I'm sorry, then you're as guilty in my eyes.
Lubna, good to see you, and good luck with it all, and hopefully you won't have to be in hiding for too much longer, but thank you so much for coming in, Lubna, and give us the name of the channel once again.
It's called Candid with Lubna.
Candid with Lubna. Check it out. She's been speaking out about the Muslim rape gangs, and she's been getting death threats as a result from Muslim communities. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Coming up in the next hour, John Rental's here. No doubt he'll be telling us that crime's going down as well, because that's what he normally says. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We'll be back with loads more of your opinions and my opinions as well. This is Talk.
My message
message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would the people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... the smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, when more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, "I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source." Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Yeah. Well, sure, the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels, and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. 3 minutes past 8. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock, when I think Russell Quirk is sitting in for Alex Phillips this morning, so we'll bring you some of that. Front pages this morning, lots of Donald Trump-type stories. Trump eyes economic incentives for Putin, says on the front page of the Times, rather. Apparently, President Trump raised the possibility of offering President Putin economic incentives to end the war in Ukraine. The Daily Telegraph has got a picture of Volodymyr Zelensky with a 10 Downing Street mug, by the looks of it. The West must not be cowed by Putin. Armed Forces Chief backs NATO as Trump says talks today will set the table for more. Admiral Sir Tony Radakin said NATO allies must be assertive in every domain: nuclear, land, sea, air, cyber and space, as well as in the diplomatic and economic arenas, as he cautioned against submitting to Moscow's demands for peace. Well, of course, peace in our time is what everybody wants, isn't it? Front page of The Sun goes with a very big picture of Taylor Swift looking beautiful, but also boot out the TikTok migrant, this guy who came into the country on Saturday, known as Alexandra 420, with his 70,000 followers on TikTok, has now been seen by millions and millions of people. He broke into the country illegally. He then did not get detained, as Keir Starmer said he would be. He then did not get arrested. Keir Starmer said he would be, and instead he got shipped off to Manston, which is the holding pen, before he ended up on a Sunday afternoon heading to the Crown Plaza in Heathrow. It now turns out that not only has he been putting out TikTok videos telling people how to break into Britain and do exactly what he did, he's also put a couple of TikTok videos out telling you how to kill your wife and get away with it. Marvellous, isn't it? It turns out his real name is Parwiz Hanif Yar, and he's from Afghanistan. And he's a clearly very unsavoury character. I don't understand why Border Force haven't gone to the Crown Plaza Hotel and arrested him and deported him, because that's what they say they're going to be doing. So why not just get on with it and do it now? John Rentoul's here in this hour, chief political correspondent from The Independent. Let's get a voice note from Paula on the TikTok Migrant.
Hi, Mike. How has this migrant got 70,000 followers if he's just a migrant coming from a war-torn country who's, in fear of his life? How's he got all of these followers? And surely he should be just rounded up and arrested and put in jail for inciting people and encouraging people to do the same thing and come to this country illegally. I mean, Lucy Connolly was put in jail for apparently inciting people to burn down hotels. So maybe he should be arrested too. Double standards.
What do you mean, Paula? Two-tier policing? Two-tier justice? Surely not. For heaven's sake. Also, here's a story that will warm the cockles of your heart. NHS waiting lists are going up. And just as I said they were, because it turns out that there's been a load of lies purported by Wes Streeting and the National Health Service to say that actually we're knocking people off the waiting list because they've either died or because they've disappeared or because they've gone private. But what we do know is that the waiting list for actual people who can't afford to do any of those things is now going back up again. Marvellous, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. This, of course, is Morning Glory. Hearing about this bloody Birmingham Council removing flags, says Shelley in Bristol. No, no, no. How dare they? It's the bloody Labour lot who are ashamed of this country. Well, they can do one. Well, thank you very much for that. Rachel keeps saying she's an economist, says Jeff in EC1. I don't want a theoretical economist in charge of the nation's finances. What about a good accountant who can add up? Well, that might help. Let's ask John Rentoul. There's a bit of breaking news coming for you in a second, but I can't actually quite see what it is, so I can't do it. Oh, here we go. A migrant in his 20s has been arrested for common assault after entering a woman's flat. This would be the incident that occurred on the Isle of Dogs on Wednesday night before he was detained by nearby members of the public. I seem to remember that the police, on the occasion of the incident itself, said that he hadn't committed a crime, so they weren't going to arrest him for anything. I've obviously changed their mind. Marvellous, isn't it? John Rentoul's here. John, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. Well, that's progress, because I couldn't understand how you could walk into somebody's house and the police could say you hadn't committed a crime. I mean, I know the law on this is complicated, but I think you're not really allowed to walk into people's houses.
No,
in this
and I think the fact that somebody leaves their door open should not prevent you from being charged with something if in fact you have then entered without permission. But again, this is going to be sort of Keir Starmer's summer nightmare, isn't it? Because of the numbers of people, the sheer numbers of people in these migrant hotels, there's going to be instances where one or another of them is going to be charged with the crime, and that's what seems to be happening. And so far, thankfully, it's all been relatively peaceful, but there will come a point, it seems to me, when there will be, a crime committed, which is the sort of the straw that breaks the camel's back, if you like.
Well, yes. I mean, yeah. The bottom line is these people shouldn't be here, and the government has failed to stop them.
Right.
I mean, the question is how to stop them, and people who send voice notes into your programme. Seem to think it's all very simple. And you told me last week how simple it was. You just have to fly these people back to Afghanistan. I mean, I don't quite know how that works. I mean, we don't actually have access to Afghanistan. Well, the planes.
Well, the Prime Minister last week said, and I can play you the video if you want. He said, and these are his words: anybody who comes to this country illegally will now be detained. They will be held until they can be sent back to where they came from. And that is how we're going to now deal with it, which was clearly wrong. Because
weasel word. They were That's not
what he said. Was you want me to find a video? Can we please? All right, hang on, Christian. Can you find a video, please, in which he said that? Because I need to play it to John Rentoul.
They face detention.
No, they will be detained.
Migrants arriving via small boats will be detained and returned to France.
And I will, and I meant it, and I meant what I said. Right now, we know for a fact that the TikTok migrant, as he's known, came in on Saturday. He was sent to Manston, as I said he would be. He was then taken to a hotel in Heathrow, where he's currently languishing, making videos about how you can kill your wife.
Yeah, extraordinary. But
surely they can go and arrest him, can't they?
You would have thought so, and they probably will, because I mean this is so damaging to the government. But I mean the question is, how do you stop them coming over in the first place? And we haven't got much closer to an answer on that.
No.
I mean, so far, as I've tried to point out to you, the government has the only practical solution, which is this returns agreement with France. But I mean, it's
not working
from actually. Well, it hasn't even started
well, because
yet.
No, it has started. They told us it started. Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer last week both said this is now begun and we are now doing it. That's what they said. They didn't say we're hoping to do it. They said we're doing it.
Yeah, but nobody's actually been sent back to France yet. I mean, that's my point.
My point is exactly the same. They haven't done it. They haven't started it, and the whole thing is a complete and utter crock of nonsense.
No, well, absolutely, and I think. I think the government needs to try absolutely everything, and there are some options that haven't been tried. I think a physical barrier across the channel would, I don't understand why that has been ruled out. I mean, apparently it was considered several years ago, about 4 years ago, I think.
Yes.
And it reported that...
Yeah, listen, I mean, you're not going to hear from me that the Tories did it any better, because, I mean, they made even more of a rick of it than anybody else did. But let me just remind you of what Keir Starmer said. Here he is talking last week about detaining and deporting people.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally. This will show others trying to make the same journey that it will be in vain, and the jobs they've been promised in the UK will no longer exist because of the nationwide crackdown we're delivering on illegal working, which is on a completely unprecedented scale.
So we're delivering on an unprecedented scale. People will be detained and deported. That's the present tense, not will be, are going to be, right? That's what he said.
Migrants will be, he said. He didn't say all migrants will be. I mean,
which migrants then? But come on,
this is the weasel language that's been used.
No, but come on, you can't defend this. This guy is a complete and utter BS artist of the highest degree. He says things which he doesn't mean, and he knows aren't true. He's a lawyer, right? He's a lawyer. He knows what he's saying.
He's a lawyer. He uses words very carefully. He did not say that all migrants will be arrested and detained. He said that some. I mean,
he didn't say that. No, he didn't say some. He didn't say some. He said anyone.
Migrants.
No, he said anyone that comes here illegally will be detained.
No, he didn't.
And deported.
That's the thing, Mike. He was very careful.
Shall we play it again? All right, let's play it again. All right, hang on. All right, listen carefully. Yeah, listen with mother. Here we go. Have another listen.
First time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed.
So he says migrants arriving by small boat. Hang on, migrants arriving by small boat will be detained. That means all migrants to me.
No, it doesn't.
Why does it not mean all migrants to you?
It means some migrants will be returned.
No, it doesn't. It means migrants. If migrants are coming to this country on small boats, they will be detained. That's what it says.
I don't know why you're defending him, Mike. I mean, I'm pointing out what slippery language he was using.
I'm not defending him. I'm saying he said something which is untrue, because he's not detaining people who arrive on small boats.
He is detaining some people.
No, he's not detaining anyone. I mean, they put out another video in which they said they had detained the first people, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't tell us how many. So have a look at this. This is Yvette Cooper, who's promising us regular updates.
Well, we'll provide regular updates for the public at every stage. That's why I'm confirming today that the pilot has now started, and the first migrants who arrived on small boat are now in detention. The transfers to immigration removal centres are underway as we speak, so we won't provide operational details at this point that criminal gangs can simply use and exploit.
So Yvette Cooper is going to give us regular updates. She hasn't given us a regular update for 10 days.
No.
So that's another lie, isn't it?
It depends what.
Well, it's a lie, isn't it?
You can have a regular update once a year.
I mean, somebody said to me that Halley's Comet comes around regularly.
Exactly.
But it's not very frequent. But I mean, it's a shambles, isn't it? The whole thing is a shambles.
It's not a shambles. It is the only scheme so far that has any prospect of sending anybody back.
But it's not working. You've just said it's not working.
Well, it hasn't had a chance to work yet, but but supposing it does.
So how
work,
can you say that it's the only scheme that's been any good? Because we don't know if it's been any good because it's not working.
Well, it hasn't worked yet, but it is not supposed to. I mean, it's supposed to take time. I mean, this is the point of a pilot scheme, and it will take time because there'll be legal challenges to each and every one of these people who want to stay.
Well, let's put it this way: since they've announced that they're going to clamp down on the migrants coming to this country, we've had about 4,000 of them.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I think the situation is intolerable, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
But the government has done one thing, which is to secure the agreement with the French that we can actually return people in principle. And
well,
I think that is a very small step of progress.
A very small step of non-progress, because the French can also veto anybody that we wish to send back to them. They can say,
exactly.
actually, no, we don't want them.
If we want to send this Afghan TikTok merchant back to France, I would imagine they'd say no.
Yeah, exactly, because he wants to kill people's wives. I mean, maybe we should just send him back to Afghanistan, as I said before, which would be a much more sensible...
Mike? How do you send him back to...
You put him on a plane, and you send the plane to Kabul, and the plane lands in Kabul, and then he gets off it.
Supposing the plane gets shot down. I mean, we don't...
I couldn't care less if the plane gets shot down. It's so much the better. Why is that a problem? I don't, honestly, seriously, I don't care.
No, well, yeah, but I think the pilot might have a view on that.
Well, the pilot may well have a view. Maybe he'll land a plane somewhere else. But, it's not our problem. We shouldn't be entertaining these characters. They shouldn't be here. I mean, even you, as a sort of woolly liberal, have now come around to the idea that actually we've got.
I'm not a woolly liberal. I've always been in favour of firm but fair.
Firm borders. Okay, all right. Well, I'll take that as read. But but many woolly liberals have now actually come around to the view that we've actually got an immigration problem, and we do have to stop people coming here who don't belong here and who have no right to stay here. I mean, let's face it. Keir Starmer 10 years ago, when he was in opposition, was a man who would fight to the death to stop deporting criminals. Famously, he actually wrote letters on behalf of criminals who wanted to be who we wanted to deport in order to keep them here. So he's had a bold face.
He's changed his mind about that. But,
yeah, he has.
He still hasn't actually managed to achieve anything in controlling the situation, but at least he does have a plan, and we'll see how it works out.
Well, I'm not sure that he's got a plan that's going to work out, because he doesn't have a plan in many areas. I mean, the question I always ask you every week when you come on is, how's it been for him this week? And it's been another, I would have to say, pretty bad week, really, isn't it?
And I'm afraid it's going to go on like that this for at least a year. I mean, this pilot scheme with the French is not actually going to start working for a very long time.
No, but I'm not just talking about the migration. I'm just talking about the migration problem. I'm just talking generally, in terms of the Keir Starmer kind of week. We've got NHS figures today coming out in which it looks as though they're actually going up. The waiting lists are going up. So Wes Streeting's plan is not working, I'm afraid. We've also got the economy dipping once again.
Yeah, no, but you should be congratulating Rachel Reeves on achieving her manifesto promise to achieve the fastest growth in the G7.
No, I don't agree with that, because unfortunately, for you, John, yes, it may well be that technically speaking, we are less destructively hopeless and bad than every other G7 country. However, that's nothing to really boast about. It's like being the one-eyed man in the land of the blind. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's not something to boast about.
But the figures were better than expected. And,
no, they weren't. No,
and in the first half of this year, it was the fastest growth of the G7.
No, growth.
So,
well, no, but it's
hallelujah.
not.
Get the flag.
But hang on, it's not growth, John, when it goes down.
Stick a flag on a lamppost, Mike.
The first. Yeah, well, I'd be happy to fly a flag from a lamppost as long as it's not a Pakistani one, if you don't mind. But they've got 0.7% growth in Q1 of the year, and it goes down to 0.3 in Q2. That's not growth. That's diminishing growth. That means it's actually gone down.
Growth.
No,
it's not shrinking yet.
Oh, yeah, but, you're clinging on to this thing. Why can't you just admit that it's all going to hell in a handcart and it's hopeless and,
Because I don't agree that it is. I think this is a great country and things are not...
you and Fraser Nelson should form to form some kind of boys' glee club, sitting around pretending that everything's fine. I was in Oxford Street yesterday, right, and I saw something which chilled me to the very bone, because as I was walking past Selfridges, suddenly I was aware of a very loud noise. There was about 50 boys, kids, teenagers on bikes. I don't know if you've ever seen this particular phenomenon, where they ride on and they do wheelies on these bikes, and they stand on the saddle and the handlebars, and they are really, really threatening to oncoming traffic. They ride right up to taxis and suddenly swerve away. And it was as though they had complete run of the West End of London, and there were so many of them that it was quite intimidating. And I just thought to myself, there's not one police officer around to do anything about this. They're committing crimes, they're going through red lights, they're terrifying pedestrians, and it was an awful thing to see. And apparently this is something that happens quite regularly now in our fair city. And I just thought to myself, John Rentoul will probably say, oh, they're just having a good time. Oh, apparently we've lost John. Anyway, listen, this is what I saw. And I know that many of you will have seen something similar in wherever it is that you live. And I just think that, this nonsensical kind of continual pimping up of the fact that, things are not as bad as you right-wingers say. It's all obviously a much better place to live than it used to be 20 years ago. It's much safer. Nobody's getting murdered. Nobody's getting stabbed. Knife crime is now up in London. We have statistics this week that said that. We know that you've got more chance of getting your watch stolen or your phone stolen than you would have had 10 years ago. It's as simple as that. Have we got a voice note from Johnny?
Hey, it's Johnny in the van. Lovely to hear you and John Rentoul getting along this morning. It's like a little romance that's blossoming in there with you guys. Loving your work, mate. Keep it up. Speak soon.
Yeah, Johnny, if he was in the room, I'd give him a hug, a bit like Zelensky. I think we got him back. John, are you back?
I'm back. I don't know what happened there.
No, I don't know either.
You were just getting into your stride there, Mike.
I was.
Well, what you were going to say now.
I was just describing this horrendous event that I witnessed yesterday of these kids, teenagers, who are all old enough to stab each other to death, cycling around in a way which was really, really quite threatening and very intimidating and scary, actually. And it struck me that, this is a symbol of this kind of Wild West situation that we now have.
What,
in
young
our
people
capital
behaving
city.
badly, Mike? I mean, come on, how long have you been on this planet?
I've been on this planet a long time, John, and I've never seen anything like that, okay? Never.
Right.
And I lived in New York in the 80s when it was really dangerous as well. But this is really bad. It's intimidating. I know that, I know you're a cyclist, but you wouldn't do what they do. I mean, if you saw...
No, I've seen these gangs around. I mean, I wish I could do what they do, which is ride on just one wheel. I think that's a great trick. I wish I could.
Yeah, but it's very...
I may take lessons next time I see a gang of them.
But it's very intimidating to ordinary members of the public.
I agree. I'm being facetious.
I know.
They are intimidating, but there have been gangs like that for forever.
I've never seen gangs.
There's nothing new.
I've lived in London for a very long time, possibly longer than you, and I've never seen gangs of kids, and in those numbers, there were 45 or 50 of them, right? They took a good 3 or 4 minutes to pass the point in Oxford Street where they were going. And I just think it's symptomatic, shall we say, of the fact that the police have lost control of public order. They're just not there. I didn't see any police officers at all. There weren't any around.
Well, I'm sure that's always been the.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is in the context of you telling me constantly, you and Fraser Nelson continuing trying to tell people that actually we live in a great country and which has never been better, which has never been safer, which has never been.
Yeah, all that is true. Yeah, absolutely.
All of those things are wrong, right? You're just.
Well, no, all of those things are true, which doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. Shoplifting is absolutely appalling, and
well, shoplifting numbers are up. You'll admit that. Knife crime is up.
No, knife crimes. I mean, the knife crime statistics are not very reliable.
Not reliable. What?
Yeah, because actually, if you look at the hospital statistics on knife injuries, they're actually still going down. So people are being stabbed and they're just not going to hospital. And phone theft is a problem. But I mean, phone theft was a problem. I mean, you said it's worse than it's been for 10 years. That is probably true. But 10 years ago, it was worse than it is now. So
I've only ever had my phone stolen once, right? And that was last September.
No, there've been.
I've never had a phone stolen in my life. until last September.
Yeah, I'm, that's very upsetting for you and all the rest.
Oh, it's all right. I got over it. I'm fine. I'm honestly fine. You don't have to worry about that.
But it's not what the statistics tell us about.
Well, we know that there are 2,000 phones a week being stolen. That's what we know.
Yeah, but it was worse. It was worse 10 years ago.
No, it wasn't. Rubbish.
Yes, it was. There was a really bad peak in phone thefts in 2013, and it's not great now, but
yeah, but I mean, it's not even worth arguing about though. My problem is that people like you and Fraser Nelson who continually try and convince us that everything's much better than it was. It isn't. It simply isn't. Everybody knows that.
No, but overall crime is down, and this country's a great place to live.
Well, yeah, but more and more people, John, feel that is a misnomer and a wrong kind of description of their life, because they feel as though their lives are worse now than they were just even 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Well, that's partly because the media reporting, including your programme.
I don't think so. No, I think it's people's perceptions. It's people's perceptions, John. Surely, you must understand.
But people have always thought that crime is worse than it used to be. I mean, that I'm afraid.
I've never encountered a more depressed state of the nation in terms of what people say about what they're experiencing and about how they're getting on and how they're working, and they're getting more and more fed up with seeing all of these migrants coming into the country who are getting loads of stuff for nothing. They're getting more and more fed up with the fact that 8 million people are on universal credit, and they're still paying tax and trying to get by and trying to put their kids through school and all of that. There is definitely a perception, whether you think it's true or not, that life is worse now and more difficult for ordinary people than it ever was.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Thank you.
In some respects, it is, and there's a sort of sense of. You're quite right to point out that you don't see police on the streets.
No.
Doing anything about bad behaviour. And the shoplifting thing is really unsettling.
It is. And general behaviour, and also
there's lots of good things about this country as well, Mike.
There are, there are many great things about this country.
I think, I think it's worth keeping a balanced view.
Yeah, no, I have a very balanced view, as you know. I mean, I'm still here. It's not like I'm denigrating the place, but I'm also not going to be blind to the fact that some things are not as good as they were. I'm equally very happy to tell you that as I take my dog to the beach in Sussex on a Saturday morning, it's one of the greatest things that anybody could ever do. It's lovely.
Good. I think you should devote more of your programme to those guys.
I do loads of stuff on that. I do everything. You've got 4 hours a day, John. I know that you only appear for about.
I only get the
brief 10 minutes, stuff. But we talk about all sorts of things.
Okay, good.
Including the fact that Manchester Airport has halted all flights after 2 planes managed to run into each other. I'm sorry. Obviously, another one of broken Britain. There we are. Listen, John Rentoul, thank you very much indeed. Chief political commentator at The Independent. What's there to be more positive about the country? I am positive about the country, but I'm just not positive about the bleeding government and the numpties that are running it. Manchester Airport halted all flights after 2 planes clipped their wings. Both EasyJet flights were departing from Terminal 1 around 6:30 a.m. When they apparently, in their words, came into contact. Here's a clue for you, right? If you're driving a plane around, try and avoid hitting the other plane, right? It's not that difficult. It's a bit like parking your car. If you park a car in an NCP car park, best thing to do is not to hit any other cars, right? I know a plane's a bit more difficult, but still. I hope it wasn't that guy that was running around naked in the bar in Mallorca the other day. He was flying it. Anyway, this is Talk.
choice, and if you haven't quite got the right grades to get into that university, then maybe it isn't the right one for you. But first of all, we need to congratulate these young people who have worked absolutely solidly. We need to congratulate the teachers, the support staff, but most of all the parents who have had to put up with these young, stressed-out people, waiting for these results.
Well done, us.
Absolutely, well done, us. And I don't think it was that long ago, Julia, that we would have been receiving our results. So, we can kind of think back to that kind of moment of joy.
Quite a way back for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:31. I'm Mike Graham with you, of course, all the way through until 10 o'clock. Jan from Newcastle says, so John Rentoul says the France scheme hasn't really started working yet, but he was one of those who wouldn't accept that the Rwanda scheme hadn't really started working and just called it a gimmick. So this France scheme must be therefore a gimmick. Is it not? They just don't hear how hypocritical they are. Absolutely right, it's true. Jamie McIver's here. Jamie, very good morning to you. Nice to see you. Councillor, of course, from Essex. We'll be talking about what's going on there and what the protestations are over in Epping about the Bell Hotel shutting down. And we've also got Councillor Chris Whitbread, who's Conservative leader of Epping Council, coming with us. There was a protest last night. Let me just start with Councillor Whitbread, if I may. Chris, very good morning to you.
Morning.
So, the government isn't listening, and the Home Office isn't listening, but you guys are still keeping yourself busy having protests. Tell us about what happened last night.
Well, obviously the protest last night thankfully was peaceful, which is really good news. What we're doing behind the scenes is obviously trying to make some progress, and today we have the interim injunction being heard by the High Court. So we're busy taking action in that way at the present time and trying to actually resolve the issue.
Yes. And, I mean, is there any hope that anything's going to change? Are they going to move these people out of the hotel? Are they sort of locked in at the moment, or are they still wandering about?
Well, I think the government find themselves in a corner, don't they? They've used these hotels, and where there's violent protests, they've had to sort of back themselves into a corner. When the first two protests didn't turn a bit nasty and ugly. Therefore, that makes it more difficult for the government to back down. But of course, they knew from day one, and we made them very aware of this, that these hotels weren't in the right location.
Yeah, exactly right. Let me come to you, Jamie. You were at the protest last night as well. I mean, people have got great resolve, haven't they, in Epping? I mean, it's sort of where it all started in a way, but they're still pressing on with it. But I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. When's it going to change?
Well, I think I'm really proud of the people of Epping. They're local people that are saying we're not going to stop peacefully protesting until this hotel is closed, and I make them right, and I stand shoulder to shoulder with every single one of them, because as someone that went to St John's School, which is just around the corner, as someone with younger sisters, I find it abhorrent that we have unvetted men just dumped in our community, and certainly when I speak to people in Ongar, where I'm the councillor, people are so pleased that people are peacefully protesting. In fact, they admire. And some people are slightly jealous of the people that are able to peacefully protest, because people are obviously worried about being labelled far right and all these horrible, nasty things that people get called. And so for work reasons, they try not to go, but they actually drive past and toot, and they show their support in different ways. But no, I think ultimately the people of Epping are not going to stop protesting, and I think the people of Epping should be encouraged to continue to peacefully protest. And to give you an idea of what the protest was like, I was there last night. So we peacefully outside the Bell Hotel, people talking, speaking to citizen journalists, getting our side of the story over the line. We're then walking to the High Street, where we did a minute's silence for VJ Day, followed by some lovely speeches from local people. And then as we marched back, we had the national anthem playing. Nice. It was completely silent. And, you know, people were actually driving past in their cars with the national anthem volume up. This is Britain. We are a wonderful country. Right. We've got a proud heritage. And so many men and women fought and died for this country. I think it's pertinent to talk about it on this day of all days. Yeah. Fought and died for this country, for our flag. And we will not, in their memory, if nothing else, allow our country to be invaded in the way that it is. And we are living through the consequences in Epping, like so many other communities. And I think the entire country's eyes are on Epping at the moment. Yeah. And I think people are getting a lot of strength from the resolve of the people of Epping.
I think that's right. And let me come back to you, Chris. I mean, what was the opposition like? Are they still turning up, the lefties, with their banners and their kind of, you know, calling you all scum, right-wing, nasty, horrible Nazis?
I think the lefties have gone home now, if that's how we want to class them. I certainly haven't seen any sign of them in recent times. Obviously, what we have to be careful of, and I agree with you, the common ground people, the people like myself who are really worried about this, who want to make sure that all protests are peaceful if they're going to be effective, and if they are, that's good and it's the right thing to be doing. What we have to make sure is they don't get hijacked by lefties or those on the right of politics. It was disturbing in the initial protests where you saw a number of ex-BNP councillors involved with the activities. Right. That's not what we want to see. Epping is a peaceful place and a great community. And what we want, and what the majority of people want to see, is the hotels closed so we can get back to our way of life and not be impacted unfairly by this government. And you have to remember, and I bring back to the point, for Epping Forest, we have 2 hotels in close proximity, and that's just wrong. This government is wrong, and it's not fair on the people of Epping Forest, and that's what we have to deal with, and that's what we are dealing with. You know, so the peaceful protests are helpful in that they keep this on the news agenda, but we also have to remember the majority of people in Epping want to get back to their way of life, enjoying their town that they work hard to live in.
Yeah. Councillor Chris Whitbread, leader of Epping Council, thank you very much indeed. I guess, Jamie, there'll be more protests coming up this weekend. It's a bit like taking the country back, isn't it? There's a sense of that. I mean, we've got a story today from Birmingham, where Birmingham Council have ordered the removal, believe it or not, of Union Jacks and of England flags, right? But meanwhile, quite happy to project a Pakistani flag for Pakistani National Day onto the building of the which houses the council.
Mike, I can't believe that of all the weeks as well, when we're about to celebrate VJ Day, of all the weeks to do that, you know, what sort of sorry state of affairs are we in that if the flag of our country is seen as an issue, but the flag of any foreign country, and actually, do you know what's wrong? Taxpayer money should never be spent celebrating Independence Day of any country, because you can't possibly do Antigua, Barbuda, Jamaica, and then do Nigeria.
Well, I said today,
and
you know, when do they celebrate St George's Day in Pakistan? But, you know, do they do that? I shouldn't think so.
Get your priorities right. I think yesterday was Falkland Day as well. You know, where was that being celebrated in Birmingham? No, it's totally wrong. But I have to say, Mike, I'm going to share some.
I've noticed you've got some stuff.
I'm giving you a bit of exclusive insight here. I'm going to give you the hat, Mike.
Right,
actually, protect our kids.
Thank you very much
and
indeed.
We've got.
Put it on.
Go on, get it on.
Go on. It might mess up my hair, but I'll put it on just for the moment.
You'll look gorgeous
I look like
anyway.
Rachel Reeves.
And we've got, look, the only way is Epping.
The only way is Epping, I like that.
And I'll publicly apologise now to the people of Ongar that I represent. I am going to get Ongar stuck on this as well.
Send them home is what it says.
Well, and
it's perfectly right.
Protect our children.
Yeah.
Protect our children. This is what it's about. You know, the country's in such a mess at the moment, but people can handle the economics. People can handle, you know, social policy.
Yeah.
People can handle that. What people cannot handle, well, I can't handle, is the fact that our children, the next generation, young girls in this country, are not safe. They are not safe to walk to school.
Yeah.
That is the sort of story you hear in a less economically developed country, and we all chip in charitably to make things safer for them. It's happening in our own country. Young girls not safe to walk to school. That is not right, and people have every right to be unhappy about that. And you know, I think a lot of people are saying, to hell with whatever plans I might have on a Thursday and a Sunday.
Yes.
They're going to support the peaceful protest. And I would encourage Chris Whitbread, the leader of the council, and any councillors in Epping. I did some basic mental arithmetic.
Right.
If you include the town council and the district councillors, there's over 10 people that are democratically elected one way or another to represent the town of Epping. I think they should be there. This is cross-party. Some are Conservative, Liberal Democrat, Independents. I think they should be at these peaceful protests. If nothing else, if they don't want to peacefully protest, fine. They could be telling the people of Epping what they're doing. Not everybody reads the news. Not everybody's watching this show.
Right.
Go and speak to the people. The 90-year-old that I spoke to yesterday who wouldn't have a clue what's going on until they read the local paper. And I think politicians have a duty. They actually do have a constitutional duty to look after the area they're elected to represent.
Definitely.
And I think that we should see more councillors standing there, if nothing else, explaining what an injunction actually is.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Jamie, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for the hat. And good luck over the weekend.
Thank you.
Jamie McIver from Ongar, but also going to be at the Epping protest over the weekend, of course, as well. Coming up, we'll be telling you about how the police swooped on an asylum hotel up in North London and arrested 2 men who were supposed to be involved in a shoplifting racket. Because, of course, you know, they're all peaceful people that come here from foreign lands, aren't they? More and more of them are getting arrested. That is the problem. We're literally importing criminals, for heaven's sake. It's 20 minutes to 9.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to A Morning Glory, 8:42. I'm Mike Graham. One way to stop these people might be to remove access to legal aid, which is taxpayer funded, to fight deportation using immigration lawyers, says Karen. And John says this: I can't understand why illegal migrants are getting lavish hotels while there are British Army veterans living on the streets. Well, that's right. What we can tell you now, though, is it's time to talk about a special correspondent at The Sun. Rachel Dale is here because, of course, an exclusive story that The Sun have got is that you might remember a couple of, maybe a week or so ago, there was a story about an asylum hotel which was housing some people who were part of a gang that was coming into central London and stealing stuff, basically shoplifting to order, going into very, very high-end shops and just walking out with loads and loads and loads of gear, one way or another. It now turns out the cops have actually gone to that asylum hotel and arrested them because it's all part of the broken borders problem in this country.
Britain's broken borders, from The Sun.
Rachel, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
It was a great story when it came out. It seems about a week ago. I could be wrong. Tell us more about what the police did as a result of your story.
So after we published the story, obviously we spoke to the Met for a comment before it was published, but they came to us afterwards and requested the footage and a statement from myself and the other people that have been involved in the investigation. which we happily provided, obviously hoping that they would be able to make their own inquiries. And then yesterday, I was informed by the Met that they had attended the hotel in Wembley at about 9:30 in the morning. Right. And they'd made 2 arrests there.
Right, that's good. And I guess they'll say it's a live case, and we can't get too involved in what it was that they were doing. But certainly the gang themselves, when they were operational, were taking themselves off onto the trains and presumably not paying their ticket on the underground, going into places like Oxford Street and just literally emptying shops of stuff and walking out the door.
Yeah, so we witnessed them. We followed the individuals for quite a few hours, and they just jumped the barriers, would travel on the tube to Bond Street and make their way to a series of high-end shops, Liberty's, John Lewis. There were 15 stores in total that we saw them go to over the period of our investigation.
Right, and very brazenly taking stuff, wasn't it? It wasn't even like they were trying to disguise the fact they were nicking it.
Yeah, I mean, they're not. So the whistleblower that we are working with, he's a private investigator. He works on and around Oxford Street. The reason he came to us was because the problem is, he says, out of control. The amount of people that they're detaining that have the asylum cards, or they don't have any ID on them at all, but they give their addresses as the Wembley Hotel or the Barbican, the other different migrant hotels that are around central London. And yeah, just the sheer numbers, they detain them. The maximum amount of time that they can detain them for is 4 hours. They call the police, they take their details, but the police rarely attend. So that is why the whistleblower came to us. And then obviously after rigorous legal discussions, we decided there was firmly in the public interest that we did our own investigation. And on the back of that, the Met have then obviously done their own investigation and have made the arrest yesterday.
Yeah, well, it's a great story, and it's a great result as well, I think, Rachel. You should be very proud. Thank you very much indeed. Rachel Dale there, special correspondent at The Sun, broke the story about these asylum hotel people who had been basically en masse going in as a kind of shoplifting gang, raiding stores in the West End of London, department stores, and stealing thousands of pounds worth of stuff. It looks as though they've now been nicked, which is no bad thing. What a great interview with Lubna, says Russ in Bedfordshire. The country and the world needs 1 million brave souls like her. I think that's right. And William says the same. Great interview with Lubna. She nailed it with the Pakistani Islam situation in the UK. She's trying to do something about it so we can all live together as before. A brave lady who spoke very clearly about calling out the bad apples and making the good ones condone bad behaviour. Please ask her on again. Have a wonderful day, says Willow from Lausanne. Willow, thank you very much indeed. Listen, we will get Lubna back because I think she was fantastic and she's got plenty more to say, I'm sure. But isn't it disgraceful that she's had to practically go into hiding to stay away from the people who are threatening her life because she's spoken out about Pakistani grooming gangs? Absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. Coming up next, Ben Clapwell is going to talk to us because our producer Christian witnessed this week, amongst many weeks, a load of fare dodgers at a station in South London on the public transportation network. He went up to one of the guards or one of the ticket collectors and said, "Why are you not stopping these people who are walking through not paying? Because I pay every day." And the guy said, "Well, I'm frightened of getting stabbed. I don't want to get stabbed." So he's not calling the police. He's not doing anything. Absolutely shocking. We'll talk more about that coming up, 8:48.
threats, and it's not just domestic animals, it's wild animals as well. So people are using, you know, air rifles, of course, and we've got this 30% increase in this report today, and that's something that's really a big problem for cat owners and a real worry and concern for them. We have people using high-powered catapults as well, where there's no regulation and control on their sale, you know, firing lead shot or steel bolts and killing pheasants and killing swans and attacking, you know, deer and other animals. And we've had reports of social media groups being set up by young people in particular to share some of the most horrible images of this cruelty.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 10 minutes to 9. This from Paul in Fife. Morning, Mike. I'm beginning to wonder if Pakistani heritage councillors and MPs actually have any interest in this country's values and customs. They seem totally preoccupied with first cousin marriages, Sharia law, building airports in Pakistan, and removing British and English flags in favour of Pakistani ones. Well, you would be, you know, forgiven for thinking that. One from somebody who doesn't give a name. Mike, we need to call shoplifting by what it actually is, looting. It's no longer committed by some desperate soul wishing to provide for his family and a lot closer. Mark in Selby says it is now a business and part of the economy. What all shops need to do is employ a couple of saucy looking dudes outside the front door with a baseball bat. Yeah, I think that's probably what it's going to come down to in the end. And we're talking about lawlessness, right? I was talking about these kids riding around on bicycles yesterday in Oxford Street. What we see all the time now is people actually walking through barriers on the underground, not paying for their rail fares when they get on public transport, trying to, you know, jump on a bus without paying. And ordinary good citizens of this country who do pay get pretty fed up about it. Christian, our producer, witnessed it in a South London station this week, where loads and loads of people were literally just walking through the barriers and not paying. And when he asked the man in charge, the ticket collector, why he wasn't doing anything about it, he just went, well, I don't want to get stabbed. Well, fine. We'll call the police then. Do something about it. We'll talk about that with Ben Clapworth in a second. First of all, though, it's time for Dean Scoggins, Deputy Head of Sport at The Sun, because it's time for 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds from The Sun.
Dean, a very good morning to you. Head of Sport, big weekend coming up. You've got the return of the Premier League. Tell us about it.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. What an exciting day we have. Yeah, the Premier League is back. An unprecedented summer of spending from the Premier League clubs. We've had Chelsea win the Club World Cup. We've had Spurs becoming Spursy again in the last week after winning the trophy before that. And it all kicks off tonight with Liverpool at home to Bournemouth. But before we get into the football chat, the only place we can really start, Mike, is Diogo Jota. Obviously, after the tragic death of the champion Liverpool star, both teams and sets of fans will pay tribute tonight to the Portuguese star before the game on what was obviously going to be an emotionally charged evening at Anfield. His death in a car accident just a month ago shocked the sporting world, and obviously Liverpool's players will no doubt be on a mission to retain that Premier League title and lift that trophy again to dedicate it to their friend. Back on football matters, Liverpool have spent north of 300 million this summer reinvesting in their title-winning machine. The arrivals of Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, Milos Kerkez, Hugo Ekitike, and even potentially more signings to come. That'll be a sorry to Newcastle fans who fear they're going to lose Alexander Isak to Liverpool as well. But we should spare a thought also for Bournemouth and their boss, Andoni Iraola, who's lost 3 of his back 4 and his goalkeeper this summer, as they've been stripped of their talent. £2.5 billion has been spent so far by Premier League clubs, and there's more to come over the next week until the window slams shut. It only ever slams shut, Mike, on September the 1st. We've had Gyökeres and Zubamendi to Arsenal. We've had Sesko and Burmo, Cunha to Man United. United. We've had Pedro, De Lap, Esteval, Gittins to Chelsea, Cherky, Reinders to Man City. So we've got new look teams everywhere. And as our chief football correspondent Dave Kidd said in his piece in The Sun this morning, never have we seen before all of the big guns undergo so much change in one window. So excitement everywhere, Mike.
Great, brilliant stuff. It's all going to be in The Sun, of course, as you speak, and it's all online as well. Return of the Premier League, and that was Dean Scoggins, Deputy Head of Sport at The Sun. 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds from The Sun.
Welcome back to the Home of Common Sense. Let's talk now to Ben Clapworthy from The Times, Transport and Travel Correspondent. We've got this from Southern Rail, basically saying that they don't have any issue with people bunking the fares because basically they can't really do anything about it. And if you've got a problem, you should call the police. Well, it's not really acceptable, is it? Ben, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, you travel in many ways, in the same way that everybody does around London, getting to work. You've got to take trains, you've got to take buses, trams, sometimes underground trains and all that. There is a problem, isn't there, with these people who just refuse, point blank, to pay their fare?
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's a huge culture these days of basically people who think they can get away with it. As Christian experienced, and as you've discussed there, the gate line staff, they are not trained to deal with ticket evaders. Their union, the RMT, it actively discourages them from dealing with fare evaders. Now, they have revenue protection teams, these train companies, and they are the people that go out onto the trains and check tickets. Now, I travel into London 4 or 5 days a week. Pre-pandemic, I used to have my ticket checked at least twice a week. It now happens once a month, if that. Right. And the train companies tell us, no, there hasn't been a reduction in the number of checks, but it doesn't tally with my own experience. It's the same when I've travelled to Bristol on GWR, no ticket checks. Yes, okay, you've got the barriers, but as you say, if people just push through them, obviously I don't, but people do, and the staff stand there and do nothing. And it's that low-level criminality. People believe that that train fare evasion costs nothing. Nobody gets harmed. Right. But actually, it costs the industry £400 million a year in lost fares, which is money that could be spent improving the network, and also money that could potentially keep the fare increases down for those of us that do pay every single day. My ticket into London is £27. That would be lovely, just not to pay £27, just to not bother, to think, oh, why should I bother? But obviously, when you do, that's a lot of money, and those people that aren't paying it are saving a huge amount.
And is there a kind of a knock-on effect as well to sort of what you might call ordinary law-abiding citizens who would otherwise pay, but because they see so many people not paying, they just go, do you know what? Actually, I'm not going to bother paying either.
There is, 100%. I actually went out with one of, on Thameslink, they call them passenger hosts. I would call them a ticket inspector. And I asked her, is there sort of a mental image in your mind of what a fare dodger looks like? Because in my mind, there is an image. And she says, it would be very easy doing my job if you could catch, if I knew in a carriage of 100 people who was not going to have paid. But your point is correct in that I think that is because now people think, well, I can get away with it. I don't see my ticket being checked. I know that there are no barriers at, for example, Farringdon. So I'll get on the train in Luton and I will buy a ticket from Luton to Luton Airport Parkway for £1, £2. And I know that I can get off in Farringdon and there's no barriers, and therefore I avoid paying however much a ticket from there would be, about £30 probably in the peak. And it does breeds a culture where people think it's acceptable, but actually it's not. And the train companies, now it's going to become the government's problem as they take all of these over. And actually, we've got Angela Rayner and Rachel Reeves trying to be tough on immigration, Yvette Cooper. We've got the government trying to sound tough on things. Well, these train companies are about to be their responsibility. And if they want to be tough on it, there should be a ticket inspector on every single train.
Yeah.
When you get on a train in Switzerland, when you get on a train in Belgium, when you get on a train in Germany, even though the trains in Germany don't really work, when you get on a train in those countries, every single time they come along and they check your ticket and they charge people and fine people on the spot. And if these people knew that every single time they got on a train, they were going to have their ticket checked, they would pay. Similarly, as one of my friends said, if you had an armed policeman who was allowed to shoot them standing at every single barrier that they pushed through, they would also start paying the fare just like everybody else does.
Yeah, absolutely right. Ben Clapworthy, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Transport and travel correspondent at The Times. According to Southern Rail, when they were asked by my producer Christian as to why they didn't actually call the police when anybody was in fact jumping through the barrier because they didn't want to stop them, they basically said, if you feel unsafe at a station or on board, please get in touch with the British Transport Police. If you let us know when you witness fare evasion in real time, we can feed this back to the Revenue Protection Team. Well, what does that mean? Christian quite rightly said to them, well, if your staff feel unsafe at the station or on board, which your staff member said to me today, please tell them to get in touch with the British Transport Police, because that may be where they can get some help. This is the problem. If you just kind of shrug your shoulders and go, yeah, just let them do it. It's not my money. I don't really care. I understand people don't want to get hurt. I understand you might not want to challenge somebody because they're going to stab you. Well, call the bleeding cops and say, this guy comes down every morning and he rocks through the barrier and doesn't pay. Absolutely ridiculous. Loads more coming up. This is Talk. We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built. The Universal Studios apparently are going to build in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going around that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth at this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in the pot and you can go in and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed. Very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the park's hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. And what about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner, says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. But they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a house of mirrors where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Yeah, moat right around the park.
Yeah.
With loads of dinghies. Call it a channel and say anyone who can break in, all is free.
Imagine the Scouts to say you can break into a theme park for free.
Hi, Jeremy. Hey, it's simple. You've got the Labour.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to 4 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham. It is Friday the 15th of August. I think it's going to be a lovely weekend, by the way. We've had a great week. Hasn't it been fantastic? I mean, apart from a massive downpour on Wednesday, it's been really hot. It's been really enjoyable. It's been like summer in all sorts of Mediterranean countries. You know, if only we knew it was going to be like this every summer, you could actually have a kind of a lifestyle that was fitted around the fact that you could wear shorts, the fact that you could have barbecues, you could go boating, you could have a great time. And you wouldn't have to worry about not going to sleep at night because it's so hot in your bedroom that you literally can't close your eyes. We've got a couple of bits of breaking news for you. Manchester Airport has halted flights after two planes have clipped each other's wings. Both of the EasyJet flights were departing from Terminal 1 around 6:30 a.m. this morning when they came into contact, is what we're being told. And also, a migrant in his 20s, you might remember this story, we talked about it earlier in the week, has been arrested for common assault after entering a woman's flat. This is in London. The incident occurred in the Isle of Dogs on Wednesday night before he was detained by nearby members of the public. I kid you not. Sarah Vine's going to join us in this hour, author and columnist at the Daily Mail, of course. Also coming up a little bit later on, we're going to talk to Ingrid Sheard, who's the Reform's Deputy Mayor in Greater Lincolnshire, and Colonel James Sunderland, former Conservative MP, will also be here remembering VJ Day, which is 80 years on, of course, today. We're going to be celebrating that as well. Front page is all about Donald Trump and his meeting later on with Vladimir Putin, of course, in Alaska. The West must not be cowed by Putin. Trump eyes economic incentives for Putin. Also, great story on the front page of The Sun. Remember the TikTok migrant, the guy who came into the country illegally on Saturday and broadcast it on TikTok to his 70,000 followers. A couple of million people have since seen it. Him filming himself on a dinghy and then going all the way through into Manston, where he was, of course, detained and processed. And then passed on to a hotel. He's now living in the Crown Plaza at Heathrow. Not only has he been broadcasting to the world, millions of people, how to break into Britain, but it turns out he's also now put out a video explaining how you can kill your wife and get away with it. Marvellous, isn't it? And yet he still hasn't been detained, he still hasn't been deported, despite what Keir Starmer said. Keir Starmer more interested, of course, in hugging Volodymyr Zelensky. We'll play you a little video of that coming up as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch with us on. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. And a very warm welcome to Friday's edition of Morning Glory, which is, of course, where we have the home of common sense, the world headquarters of it, meanwhile. We've got Gaff-Prone Friday as well today. We've already played this one out once, but it's so good we're going to play it out again for those of you who didn't see it the first time around. And it is, of course, the one and only Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan.
It is Friday, August the 8th. Here's what's coming up. As we... hang on. This is the wrong... sorry, I've got to start again there, folks. This is the wrong list here. Bear with me. It is still Friday, the... look at this, a good start. This will be on Mike Graham's gaffes next week. Don't tell him, anyone. For God's sake, don't tell him. Yes, where were we? Yes, it's Friday. It's Friday. Come on, it's the weekend. Don't worry about it.
It is Friday. He's right about that. It's about the only one thing he got right, actually, is that it's Friday. But never mind. We love him anyway, don't we? I live in an area where the flags are flying. It's great. But I'd like to know why Birmingham City Council don't want to take the Palestine flags down from lampposts on the main route into the city centre, says Jane. And one from Dorothy in East Kilbride. She says this. Good morning, Mike. Since Brexit, I've flown a Union flag on the top of my garden shed. I have to replace the flag every few months due to the wind, leaving it in tatters, just like the state of the country. Great show. Yeah, it can be windy up there in Scotland, can't it? Morning, Mike. Love every day. That false Wallace and Gromit smile on Rachel Thieves' face winds me up. Yeah, we had Rachel Thieves talking earlier. Let's say a very good morning to Sarah Vine, author and columnist at the Daily Mail. Sarah, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's a beautiful Friday. We're very happy, despite the fact that the country is going to hell in the handcart thanks to this bleeding useless,
I disagree with you, Mike. This weather is terrible. I can't stand it.
You don't like the heat? Is that what you're saying?
No. The whole point of England is that the weather is reliably bad.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it did rain absolutely cataclysmically on Wednesday. I came out of a studio.
Not long enough.
Well, yeah, no, we don't mind. But that's the thing. I mean, my son's gone to America for the summer, right? And he was telling me how great it was because he was going out on boats here and barbecues there. And I said, yeah, well, they can plan it in America because they know they're going to have nice weather.
We're just not equipped for it here. We're just not equipped. The houses are all built to keep the heat in.
Right.
'Cause it's a cold country, so everyone's sweltering. We work from 9 till 5. Well, those of us who still work. I mean, it's obviously they're decreasing numbers.
If you can, yeah.
But you know, so in continental countries, everybody gets up early, and then they all sort of stop at about 11 o'clock and go to sleep until about 5, which is the only thing to do when it's this hot.
It's true.
And then they get up again and do the rest of the work in the afternoon. But we plough on, sweltering. Also, I've broken my ankle, so I'm wearing one of those massive
boots,
heavy boots.
Oh,
so
God. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, life is a struggle, isn't it? I mean, that's the other thing. Being British, you have to struggle through. Let me show you this, though, because I think this is the most un-British thing I've seen this week. And this is Prime Minister Keir Starmer welcoming Volodymyr Zelensky to Downing Street. British,
all that
isn't it?
hug, isn't it?
It's very un-British, all
Yes,
this male hugging.
A firm handshake would have sufficed, I think, probably.
Yeah. I don't like Keir Starmer. I don't pretend to like him, but I dislike him even more when I see this. He hugs Emmanuel Macron.
Also, those sofa chairs outside. But those sofa chairs outside in the garden. Who has a sofa in the garden? That's just silly. Someone put that there. That's pointless.
But the
whole thing is totally staged.
Yeah, we've come to this point, haven't we, where you know, we knew that Tony Blair was the king of spin and Alistair Campbell was behind it all, but he would never have done anything like this. It's just really lame, isn't it?
I mean, but also it's done to distract from the main headline, which is that everything is falling to pieces. I mean, it's obviously just a piece of it's a sort of piece of political soft porn, isn't it? Designed to sort of calm the kind of the general public. Yeah. It's not going to work.
And I could forgive them if it actually was working and if people kind of fell for it.
There's nothing there. I mean, what is he? I don't know. It's pointless. It's completely pointless.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we talk about this all the time as how useless this government is, but they're also sort of self-deluded, and they're trying to continually tell us that things are getting better. I mean, Rachel Reeves spent a few minutes yesterday telling us that the economy's going really, really well and everything's great, and it clearly isn't. You know.
No, I know. It's just that they're trying to make us believe things that are manifestly not true. Can I just say I did quite like that Emma Bridgewater number 10 mug that Zelensky was holding there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's fine, but can anybody actually buy one of those?
I don't know, but you might be able to go on the Emma Bridgewater website. She often does stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I agree, it's pointless. It's a waste of time. It's, they're trying to create a narrative that is just built on sand. You can't. People are not stupid. You can't tell them things that are manifestly not true.
No, I mean, I talk to people, as I'm sure you do, throughout the course of the week. Somebody told me the other day that he was speaking to a sort of a property entrepreneur who said the property market in London is now completely dead. Nobody's buying any property. The stamp duty is too high. Nobody wants to move, and everything is kind of a flatlining. And so, there is no hope for the economy once you can't even buy and sell property in London. That's the end, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, London. I mean, I think the London property market is the sort of canary in the mine, isn't it? I mean, it's always a big barometer of how well things are doing. And of course, the problem with this government is that they've driven away anyone with any money, any serious money. Yeah. So all the sort of high-end properties are quite a lot of them are up for sale because people are selling up, but also. I was talking to an estate agent, actually, I'm quite good friends with an estate agent. He said that a lot of the people who had buy-to-lets are selling, and anyone who's got a second home, because everyone's terrified that they're going to bring in a property tax. so-called mansion tax.
Right.
So they've torpedoed the property market, and quite honestly, Britain doesn't really have much else actually at the moment.
No.
So to do that is incredibly stupid. At the same time, the sort of hike in national insurance for employers has just, I've got lots of friends, kids, including my own, who've just come out of university, and it's really difficult for them to find jobs because people are not hiring.
Yeah.
They don't want to take on people because they've changed the labour laws. So you hire somebody and immediately they're entitled to everything and you could never fire them. And, and they've done this national insurance thing, which means it's just expensive to hire anyone. So people are getting jobs, work, but it's all kind of gig stuff and it's all zero.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing, it's just one stupid decision after another. It really is.
Yeah, my two sons who are of an age that they can work during the summer months, both of them couldn't get a job in Sussex. So one of them has gone to America and he's working over there, because there's just nothing going on. The pubs aren't hiring people, the restaurants aren't hiring people, all the usual kind of stuff that you would do, or that you and I probably did when we were growing up.
Those sort of summer jobs, those kind of part-time jobs, they're all drying up.
Yeah.
And it's just, and in a place like London, I mean, there are still some pockets where I think stuff is still happening, obviously Notting Hill, Chelsea, places like that. But broadly speaking, it's all starting to fall off. And there are, around where I live, there are so many houses now for sale. I mean, like 3 or 4 years ago, you couldn't buy a decent house for love nor money. Now they're sort of practically throwing them at you.
Yeah. Exactly right. And there just doesn't seem to be any great prospect. And the only other thing that you said, we've only really got property in Britain, it's true. The only other thing we've really got is pension. People who've got pensions.
Yes,
and they're going to come after those.
And the service industry. But now they're going to, so now this government have decided that they're going to raid pensions as part of inheritance tax, which I think is actually quite wicked.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do if you're a little old lady, age, say, my mother's age, in her 80s, husband dies, you're not very good at money because you've never really had to do it, and suddenly the government is making you sell your house so that you can pay inheritance tax on a pension. I mean, I mean, I suppose, I've got quite a lot of very old people in my life at the moment because, I'm 58, so all of my friends' parents are, in their 80s.
Getting up there, yeah.
And I'm really conscious of how difficult it is being that age, generally speaking, physically, mentally, all of those things.
Yeah.
Yet, this government has systematically targeted that age group. That, first of all with the heating thing, and now with this raid on the pensions and this absolute, I mean, everyone hates inheritance tax. It disincentivizes people to try and build anything in their lives because you do stuff for your kids, don't you? So I think the sort of, it's just, the whole thing just feels like it's a kind of complete, anyone who does anything right, who works hard, who tries to do the right thing, who tries to provide for themselves and their family is just going to get penalised. And what people are going to start to think to themselves is, what's the point?
Yeah.
I might as well just sit around like all these other people and do nothing all day and, and just take the money.
Yeah, well, that's what I hear all the time now. This week has been particularly bad, where people have gone, I get people, because I start 6 o'clock in the morning, ringing me up going, I started my work at 5:30, I'm driving a van or I'm driving a lorry, I'm going to finish at about 6 o'clock tonight. My wife does 2 jobs to make ends meet. We're trying to put our kid into a private school, but we can't really afford it, so we have to take her out of the private school. The VAT's killing us. It's almost as though they hate anyone who aspires to do anything good.
Yeah, exactly, or to build anything.
Yeah.
This country is built by ordinary people working hard, getting up early, building their lives. And if you start to remove those building blocks, which is what they're doing, I mean, it is just communism, really, isn't it?
It is.
And that's all it is.
Right.
And the thing is that I wrote endless articles in the run up to the election saying, guys, it's communism, and everyone said, he's probably quite a nice guy, blah, blah. He's not a nice guy. He's
really not. He's really not a nice guy at all. And I saw something yesterday, and I know this is probably going to come as no surprise to you, but in Oxford Street, I was walking down Oxford Street, just outside Selfridges, and suddenly I was aware of this noise, and about 45 or 50 kids, teenagers, on bikes came down the road, and they were doing these wheelies, and they were going in front of taxis and weaving in and out of the traffic. It was really intimidating and really quite frightening. And the tourists were all kind of looking at it like, what the hell's going on here? A couple of them were like standing on the saddles. It was like literally lawless
that all the
Wild
time now.
West London.
You see that You see that all the time. I was on the tube the other day, and exactly the same thing. When they weren't on bikes, but a group of them got on the tube and started being just really, really obnoxious and loud, and playing loud music and talking in stupid, accents and all that stuff. And there was a sort of rather sort of sweet Spanish couple.
Yeah.
And I said, "Do you mind not doing this?" And they practically beat him up. It was really unpleasant.
Right.
Just well, basically, because all the signals that are coming from the top down are, if you're a hardworking, law-abiding person, you're basically an idiot.
Yeah.
You're basically stupid. What clever people are doing is playing the system and doing all of this kind of stuff. And that's the message that they're sending. And that's what people. I mean, you can't blame people for thinking that. I mean, you just look, and that's what you see. And this thing with the flags that you were talking about earlier on. I mean, there's on the Westway. I don't know if you've been on the Westway recently. There's there's one house that's got about 5 or 6 Palestinian flags on it, which is that's what you think. That's okay. But there's no reason why people shouldn't have a British flag if that's also what they. You know what I mean? Freedom of speech. You have to tolerate all of this stuff.
I know. I was in quite a good mood when I started talking to you. Now I'm really quite depressed.
Sorry.
Never mind. It's fine. It's what we do, right? It's what we do.
Well, I just think it is just. I mean, I wrote a piece this week about my experience in A&E. Again, it's another situation where, the entire system is geared to basically make you feel like an inconvenience if you're the sort of person who, I don't normally go to hospitals, I don't normally use the NHS, but once you have to go, if you're forced to go, you get there, and you realise that the whole thing it just doesn't function in any useful way, and that the people who are running it actually don't care and are not interested, and there's been a real sea change in attitudes in this country. I think I just think that whole thing that my mother, my parents used to have, my grandparents used to have, which is that there's a dignity in not just putting your hand out all the time, and that you do look after yourself, and you do it is important to be self-starting, and if you have the capacity to look after yourself, not just to constantly ask for stuff the whole time.
Yeah,
that's
Absolutely. Sarah, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great weekend, despite all of that. Sarah Vine, author and columnist at the Daily Mail. She's absolutely right, isn't she? You are made to feel as though if you're doing it all right, if you're doing the right thing, if you're paying your taxes, if you're expecting, nobody to help you out with anything, and you're just getting on with it and raising your family and going to work and doing everything right and not breaking the law, you're kind of treated like a mug, aren't you? Let's get a voice note from Gary.
Hello, Mike. It's Gary from Canterbury. How comes Chris Philp, who filmed migrants getting onto a bus in France, he can find the gangs? How comes other reporters can find the gangs? Even we passed the gangs when we went through Dunkirk with about 1,000 people on the beaches. How comes everyone can find all of these people and the gangs that are organising these people getting on boats to come across the channel, yet the French can't find them, the police in England can't go over there and get them? Where's this going? I really don't get it. Great show, Mike. Keep it up.
Yeah, Gary, I totally agree with you. I don't understand why they have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds and millions of man-hours trying to track them all down. They've got all these border security people. We quoted from them earlier in the week, didn't we? Boat Security Command, Border Command, blah-de-blah-de-blah, military intelligence, Home Office intelligence, Home Office special officers all over the place. Not one of them doing their job. Not one of them able to do anything at all. Let's get another gaff, because it is Friday. Here's Ian Collins.
When you live down here in Folkestone, I'm sure you know the Lees and
I do.
Right. So then you hear the helicopter. The Air Sea Rescue helicopter going. You think, okay, today's going to be a busy day, and so this 50.
That sounded like a kestrel.
Yeah, all the time. Now, us lot living down here on the actual front line.
Sounded like a kestrel. Who knows what a kestrel sounds like? Coming up, we're going to be speaking to Ingrid Sheard, who's Reform's Deputy Mayor in Greater Lincolnshire, and Colonel James Sunderland as well, former Conservative MP, on VJ Day. This is Talk.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 26 minutes past 9. Jeff is in Lincolnshire. He says, welfare dodgers, why not change the barriers? Recently in Brussels, I used the underground. The barriers opened sideways, not like bat wings. Almost impossible to force your way through. My relatives tell me fare evasion is very low and tickets are checked by staff on every surface train. I'm not quite sure what you mean by open sideways. Does that mean, I guess they don't go like that? I don't know. So sideways like that? I don't know. Not sure. Anyway, I live around the corner, says Paula from the Crown Plaza. I really hope I don't meet this migrant from TikTok on my dog walk. And Michelle says, where was Key to Love video with Trump? Actually, I'm not sure that Donald would go for that. Zelensky looks a bit puzzled at one point. Yeah, well, who can forget that Donald Trump met and hosted Keir Starmer up in Turnberry for about 2 days, right? But somehow, nobody ever put any videos out. Keir Starmer was so embarrassed because he got completely humiliated by Trump that he didn't actually do it. Here's one from Mike in Colchester who says, if train staff open the barriers for someone they believe may be carrying a knife onto a packed train, that is irresponsible at best and possibly negligent. If a passenger gets stabbed, they may have a case against the train company. That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that, really. Morning, Mike. Just wondering if the ticket inspectors are working from home. Yeah, well, you wonder, don't you? And how about this from Earl? On knives on the train and tube, why not make a wall of knife detector arches at each station, creating flow control, but it needs people to actually make the arrests. That's true too. Let's talk to Ingrid Sheard, who's Reform Deputy Mayor in Greater Lincolnshire. Ingrid, very good morning to you. Oh. No, she's not there. Never mind. We'll come back to that. Stan the Man in Cheadle Hume in Cheshire says, morning, Mike. Raise the ticket barriers. Make them a solid gate, not spring-loaded. Simples. In an emergency situation, cut the electricity supply to allow them to open. I mean, there does seem to be quite a few reasonably good explanations as to how to fix this particular problem. This one from Adam, who says, Mike, when I was at Clapham South Station the other day, at least 12 young lads pushed through the barrier right in front of the attendant. I asked her why she didn't do anything. She said, if you've got a problem, you have to write to TfL and complain. What? I mean, this is really causing a lot of people an awful lot of problems, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, if you can't run a railway system which is actually, you know, reliable, one, which is lawful, two, which allows people onto the trains only if they actually are well behaved, then you need to have staff to operate that. I mean, I was in London Bridge Station yesterday, coming back from somewhere, because I had to come back to the office, and the staff were all collecting for some homeless charity, and they were giving out some, you know, ridiculous, you know, sort of tannoy message. We're today collecting for blah 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 homeless charity. Please give generously. No, that's not your job. You're not supposed to sit at the bottom of a bleeding escalator with a bucket. You're supposed to make sure that the people coming into the train station are actually paying their fare. You're supposed to make sure that, you know, dangerous people are not being allowed onto the transit system. You're not supposed to be sitting there collecting money for the bloody homeless. What's wrong with you? Let's talk to Tom, who's in Reigate, wants to talk about money being spent on illegal migrants. Tom, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Graham, the famous Mr. Graham. I'm very sorry, my condolences to the young James Whale. What a lovely man.
Fantastic man, yeah. Man. Absolutely fantastic man, yeah. We're all better off for knowing him.
Yeah, he's a great man, mate, and I'll tell you something else. We should stop spending 1.56 billion a month on these scumbags coming here.
Yeah.
How about the old army officers and the own list that we got and all the ex-services men? having money. They don't give them anything.
No.
Nothing at all. They give billions, and all he keeps doing is going abroad, giving a couple of billion here, looking a big I am, and he's absolutely a lying dirtbag. I think Starmer should resign immediately with effect.
I wish he would, because that would do us all a favour. Tom, thank you very much indeed for your kind words.
Get up, boy.
Good man. Thanks a lot. Let's talk to Miranda, who's in Cumbria. Hello, Miranda.
Hello.
Hello. What can I do for you?
Well, I was, the pictures of the migrants leaning out the hotel room, laughing and taking photographs of the people outside. I just thought, wouldn't it be? It's so appropriate just to superimpose the faces of the cabinet on those migrants, because that's what they just seem to be laughing at us.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a disgrace, really.
It is.
It would look really good if you superimposed them.
I know. You're absolutely right. It's hilarious. I mean, we are being laughed at and mocked by the people that we are paying to actually run the country. Tony from Sussex says, Mike Starmer is ignoring the vast criticism of how he governs and how the government is handling the immigration crisis, because inevitably it will bring him and his government down. And he knows that. One from Peter in Suffolk says, I think Starmer should go down to Dover, then he could hug every migrant as they climb down from the lifeboats. Yeah, well, that's true as well. And one here from, who is it? Gary. I've calmed down now, kind of. Can Mike mention this for me, please? I'm on the housing list, and there's a migrant hotel in my town. I called Housing and Welfare and said, why can't I get a room in said hotel? Give me a bike, like you do the illegal immigrants. Then I can work legally, doing Deliveroo or whatever. Then I'll go up a band and priority, and I'll get a council house and some accommodation property in a matter of weeks. I've been waiting for years, since before COVID. This is the thing. People say that they can't get themselves a housing a situation going because they can't get themselves on the housing ladder. It's absolutely and utterly ridiculous. Shocking state of affairs. Coming up, we're going to speak to Colonel James Sunderland, former Conservative MP. He'll have something to say about VJ Day, which we're celebrating, of course, 80 years on. Let's get a voice note from Ian on Manchester Airport.
Mike, great show. I've got an exclusive on the Manchester Airport, the EasyJet. One of the pilots was actually under the influence and naked, and the pilot coming the other way was so shocked he went straight into him. You heard it first.
Ian, well, let's hope it doesn't turn out to be true. But of course, we did have that story last week, or earlier this week, actually, I think. It was somewhere in Spain, where the passengers of the said plane were slightly shocked to see the pilot running around the bar naked at about 2 a.m. and shortly before he was due to fly back to London, I think. Shocking state of affairs. At Manchester Airport, that's the breaking news this morning. They've halted flights after two planes have clipped each other's wings. Both of the EasyJet flights were departing from Terminal 1 at around 6:30 a.m. When they, in quotes, came into contact. It's not something you should do, really. I mean, avoid contact with other planes if you're flying one of them, driving them around, taxiing them around, you know what I mean? Oh, what's that there? Oh, that's another plane. Yeah, try not to hit it. Try really hard, really, really hard not to hit it. It's 9:33.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 9:35. I don't know where the time's gone. The show's gone really quickly. In fact, all week it's been like that. It's been extraordinary. Just wondering, says Neil, didn't think I could like John Rentoul less, but after you saying he's a cyclist, now I do. He's in the Ronda. That's a bit harsh. And Gary from Rochester, if ticket inspectors are not inspecting tickets, why are we paying them? That's a very good question. I don't know, what do they do if they're not actually doing it? I don't know. Morning, Mike. I'm sorry, but this TikTok migrant doesn't seem to be getting a knock on his door about what he's saying online. He's going on about lessons on how to kill your wife and seems to be fully aware of how our prison system works as well. What is going on? Absolutely disgusting, says Zoe in Lancashire. Yeah, I don't know. One thing I can bring to your attention before we do yet another gaffe from Gaff Prone Friday is that I've made it into one of the great columns that appears in great newspapers that we see every single morning. Ali Ross, who's every Friday in The Sun, TV columnist extraordinaire, a man who casts his eye over everything that goes on TV and in the media, and is very, very funny while he does it as well. He's got me in his column as lookalike of the week, believe it or not. And apparently, this week's winner is London cabbie Darren, currently pining for Jackie P on Destination X. Now, I've never seen this show, and I don't think it's a particularly great likeness of me, but I'm not going to complain. He says, compared to the one and only Mike Graham from Talk Radio, sent in by Stuart Sinclair from East Lothian in Bonnie, Scotland. There it is, lookalike of the week. I don't think I look anything like him. But there we are. What can I say? It's very kind of Ali Ross to give me a bit of a mention. So cheers, Ali. We'll talk to you soon. Let's get a gaff now from Ash Gould and Andre Walker.
Years ago, if someone wolf whistled you, you'd...
Oh, there's one now.
That's my cat.
Arrest that cat. Give that cat a warning. Give that...
That was a cat call.
You've got a sexist cat.
It was a cat call. Phone Surrey Police. Get them.
Cat call.
Get Surrey Police on the line. Come on, quick.
Is he all right, do you think? Who knows? Let's talk to Colonel James Sutherland, former Conservative MP, on the occasion of what it says on the front pages of this morning of VJ Day, 80 years on. On the front page of the Daily Express, a lovely picture of Reg Draper, who's 100 years old. He saw the formal surrender of Japan, which ended the Second World War, and then there's a picture of him when he was in the Navy, aged 21. Our VJ Day heroes gave us more than freedom. They left us the example of how it can and must be protected. And if only we could have that protection from this current government. That would be nice, wouldn't it? James, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. You well?
I'm very well indeed. It's a nice thing to celebrate VJ Day. It's not something that people think about, I don't think, very often. It's, VE Day everybody kind of thinks about, but VJ Day, Victory over Japan, came a little bit later and was kind of slightly less, I suppose, celebrated, if you like.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're very focused on the European war because it's fresh in the memory, it's local, there's geographic proximity.
Yeah.
We have been guilty, I think, as a nation of forgetting perhaps the victory over Japan, which was equally important. But we could talk about the Japanese Imperial Army, we could talk about Pearl Harbor, we could talk about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Lots to discuss, Mike.
There is, absolutely right. I've got this from Keith, who says, on VJ Day, I often think of those poor souls captured by the Japanese and the horrors they endured. When they came home, yes, Britain wasn't perfect, but at least they were in the bosom of the country they knew and were relatively safe. They wouldn't recognise this country now. Hellish, no other word for it. You and Tom Slater made my point for me as I typed this. It's reassuring at least to know others feel the same. I mean, a lot of people do say this, and I don't want to turn it into a, where are we now kind of conversation, but a lot of people say to me now that this country is not one that would be recognised by some of those veterans who were returning in the sort of late 1940s to this land of ours.
Well, I agree with that. I think ultimately people that fought for the armed forces, people that fought for the country, go back to 1945, the European War, the war in the Far East, Singapore. I think about what our veterans who were captured in Singapore went through, the appalling brutality on the Burma Railway. When I was a bit younger, about 20 years ago, we had a neighbour called Fred who used to sleep on the floor. And when I spoke to him about why he slept on the floor, he said that having got malaria and been treated so badly by the Japanese, and having slept on the floor when he was building the Burma Railway and survived, it's amazing that to this day he couldn't get out of the habit of sleeping on the floor. So I do feel very strongly that our veterans paid a very, very high price, those that survived, and they fought for our flag and fought for our country. These are values that are British. These are values that we should be very proud of, and I'm afraid, like you, I don't recognise much of what I see now on the streets of the UK.
Yeah, I have a similar story. My father had a friend who used to play golf with on a regular basis, and they're both dead now, but he had been a concentration camp victim in Japan. And he used to shower like 3 times a day because he could never sort of get to whatever the experience of it away from him, and to the point at which we used to see people from he couldn't be in a room with somebody from Japan. He absolutely just hated them, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was stories of torture and barbarism, the treatment of British prisoners of war, Australian, American, the list goes on. I think some of the stories haven't been told. Many people that I've met in my life who would not talk about their experiences of Singapore and the Far East. And I think that we are very familiar with Colditz and the German concentration camps and the experiences of people escaping from Europe to get back to the UK, but we're not so familiar with the appalling atrocities that were committed in the Far East.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of, you know, where we are now in the world, where we've got, I mean, this evening, or at some point this afternoon, in Anchorage in Alaska, Donald Trump meeting Vladimir Putin, trying to bring an end to that conflict in Ukraine, where we've got people, you know, constantly talking around Benjamin Netanyahu and the Gulf states and what we do about Gaza and Israel. A lot of people say we're in a more dangerous time now than we've been for a very long time. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, all of what I see, the intelligence, military guy, when I was in Westminster, of course, I saw quite a bit as well. No question at all that we must increase defence spending. We are living in a very dangerous age. We've got state-sponsored destabilisation now with migrants coming across the channel. This is not a migrant crisis now. This is a security crisis. So it's on our shores. We've got instability everywhere. You look at the Russia-Ukraine situation. You look at what's happening with China and Taiwan. I mean, there are flashpoints all over the world, and these flashpoints could actually, quite conceivably, end up in a total war scenario. So we've got to be really careful now. We've got to think about ourselves, think about our security, think about our defences. NATO is the only show in town. 32 countries, you know, Western Europe and, of course, the North Atlantic area. And we've got to take this very seriously.
Yeah, I think so. Colonel James Sunderland, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Former Conservative MP, of course, talking to us there about VJ Day, which is on the front page of the Express and also the Mirror, where they've got a really, really good front page, which is unusual for them, to be honest. 80 years on, they faced untold horrors thousands of miles from home, and they are the lucky ones. They came home. So many didn't. Today we remember them all. Thank you, is what it says. And the free souvenir pull-out inside. It's actually, you know, one of the few times I can recommend the Daily Mirror to people to say you should get your hands on that and have a look. Russell Quirk is coming up. He's obviously filling in for Alex Phillips this particular Friday. Bit of breaking news for you. Manchester Airport has halted all flights after 2 planes clipped each other's wings. Both of the EasyJet flights were departing from Terminal 1 at around about 6:30 this morning when they came into contact. Dean from Pompey says this: I thought Starman and Labour Looney Party was censoring harmful content. The videos of the Starman Führer hugging the little troll Zelensky is harmful content for adults. Shall we have another look at it? Let's have another look at it. York says, Mike, the laughing, gesturing, social media using immigrants, this to me is the same as when burglars broke into your house and not only stole from you but messed the house up. We have been so stupid and or naive in this country. No more immigration for at least 10 years. None. Not even legal. Thank you. And one from Len in North Wales. On the Trump on the Channel crossings. Hi, Mike. Trump could do a Starmer U-turn and put 100% of trade tariffs on the UK unless the Royal Navy turned the migrant boats into the Channel back to France. A quick fix. Well, very possibly so. Let's get a voice note from Darren.
Morning, Mike. Darren from Warsaw. So in two-tier Keir's Britain, then, you get a mother who's never broken a law in her life, get banged up for 2.5 years within a week for something she put on X for 2-3 hours, and she's in jail within a week. But you get a criminal, because he's a criminal, because he's entered the country illegally, posting video after video after video on how to break the law, inciting murder, and all he's getting, he's getting asked whether he wants tea or coffee with his breakfast. Welcome to Two Tiers Britain. Cheers, Mike.
I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Incredible. I mean, this is what he says, right, on his video about how to murder your wife. I'm not joking. He's got an actual instruction. It says this, I will let her sleep first before I kill her. I'll drink a bottle of alcohol. I've never drunk alcohol in my life, but I teach you the technique to get less punishment. Just drink a bottle of it, don't get too much drunk. Kill her immediately. When the police comes, they say he was drunk. How many years of prison you get? 7 years. During the 7 years, you will have academic courses in prison, and after 7 years, you've learned something, and you're only 30 years old and sexually very strong. Marry a new woman. You must do this technique. Sorry. And where is he? He's in a hotel room, right? The Crown Plaza Hotel by Heathrow Airport, paid for by you and I. Fantastic, isn't it? 9:46.
I mean, I do think that nationality is very interesting, but there needs to be very, very clear statistics collected on immigration status as well. You know, not just whether someone's an asylum seeker, but if they are a refugee, in other words, they've been granted a right to remain. How long have they been in this country? How long since they were granted their right to remain? All of this is to do with building up a picture so that we know what it is we're doing in our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. Just about 10 minutes to go until Russell Quirk comes in to take over, take you all the way through until 1 o'clock. Coming up tonight, of course, it is Plank of the Week at 7 o'clock. You don't want to miss it. Have a listen. there's people filming other people stealing every single day. You go on social media, there was one the other day of a woman who was just in a local Tesco's or something with a huge bag and was just taking stuff off the shelf like that and chucking it in the bag and walking out.
Oh, but you can't film them anymore because apparently that's a breach of GDPR.
She was complaining that the guy was filming her doing it. Right?
The police today, there's something out there that the police have actually asked the public to get involved.
Yeah, they have, that's right.
It's a public's duty now to stop them. And
They don't want us to put up any pictures of them because that might breach GDPR. It's so mean to put the details out of somebody who's a criminal.
Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Plank of the week every single Friday at 7 p.m. And that's right now. So over at Greater Lincolnshire, the Reform Deputy Mayor is Ingrid Sheard. First time on the show. Ingrid, very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Thanks very much for joining us. How are things in Lincolnshire?
This morning we've got a bright sunny day, but Lincolnshire as a whole, well, we certainly face some issues. We have lots of issues here.
Yes, you have. Well, I know Andrea Jenkins is your boss, I guess, and she's the mayor, and you're the deputy mayor. How are you getting on with the old Doge scenario and the I don't know what you might call the recidivism of the council?
There's definitely some fines being found. There's definitely money there that's being wasted. We're definitely getting on top of it. We've definitely come across quite a number of things that we need to get on top of.
Can you give me a couple of examples of things that you found?
Yeah, so basically if we look throughout staffing levels and process and procedure, we've definitely found there's definite wastage of money across the board.
Right. And are you able to fix that with relative ease, or is it a struggle?
No, it's going to take time. I mean, obviously these processes and procedures have been in place for an awfully long time. We have to work through all of the bits and pieces. We have to make sure that we put in force resilient resources for the public to make sure that services aren't affected and that what we do actually brings them better and improves things.
Yeah. And are you finding the public are very grateful for that? Because obviously for so long, many people have lived under the yoke of various different councils wherever they are, and they kind of just get told what they're going to be doing. They don't really get much say in how to run the place. I mean, are you finding that the people are quite welcoming to you?
Absolutely. I think the people realise that reform is here to listen to them. We're here to actually drive things forward for them. We're here to actually give them a voice. It's a voice that's been quietened for far too many years. And as you say, they've been told what they're going to do. Well, now is an era of change. We are here, we're listening, and we're going to drive things forward for you.
That's good to hear, because I think for some of the reform victors, shall we say, who got elected in May, they're finding it's quite difficult to kind of break through what old habits die hard kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it can be. But to be fair, as we're having discussions and we're highlighting where things are going wrong, people are open. They are open to the conversations. And slowly but surely, we haven't got a magic wand. We can't fix it overnight. But slowly but surely, we're driving forward those improvements and people will see them.
Right. And what's the situation where you are in Lincolnshire with migrant hotels? Because we know that there's an awful lot of demonstrations being planned this weekend in various different parts of the country. Epping, of course, in Essex is a big one. Have you got any up there?
Yes, so we've got several spread around. I mean, I'm here in South Holland, and basically there's properties consistently being bought up, which appear on the forefront just to be normal properties that are going to be rented out. And then, lo and behold, as the weeks go by, we find that they're being more and more occupied by asylum seekers, etc.
Right.
Our streets are littered with the feel of fear. So people come to me and actually say they're frightened on the streets now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. It's a real problem, isn't it? But listen, I really appreciate your time, Ingrid. Thank you very much indeed. Ingrid Sheard there, Reform's Deputy Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. Thanks very much for talking to us. We've actually got a little clip that I want to play you about HMOs. This is the housing of multiple occupancy tenants. And this is from Councillor George Madgwick, who's down in Portsmouth for Reform.
In a recent meeting, Amanda Martin MP of Portsmouth North told people that 58 HMOs are currently being used to house migrants in the city of Portsmouth.
The number of HMOs used for dispersal accommodation for asylum seekers under the last government rose from 10 to 58 in Portsmouth. So originally it was 10 and risen up to 58.
We are led to believe by the media that all these asylum seekers are put into hotels. That is now not true. We've had it confirmed. We have hundreds of migrants, people that come here illegally, in this city, living in our communities without them being unchecked, without them being documented, not knowing whether they're criminals or not, and not knowing whether they're safe or not.
It is absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? And this is going on in every single part of this country right now. We're going to keep an eye on it for you and continue to report on it, even though others don't do it. Some people, you would think, don't even know a story if it falls on their faces. Let's talk to Anne, who's in Somerset. Anne, hello. Very good morning to you.
What's going on here?
Oh, I think Anne's running. Anne's running. She's got a live gaff there. Anne's running some kind of telephone exchange. We'll come back to her. Rosemary is in Kent. Hello, Rosemary.
Hello, Mike. I'm pleased to speak with you. I'm 86 years old and I lived through the war.
Well done, you. What can you tell me about this beautiful morning, Friday?
Oh, well, it's hot again and I'm not very happy with it.
OK. All right.
Yeah, no, I remember VE Day more than I do VJ Day.
Yes.
But...
what do you remember about it?
Well, I know all about what happened because I had 5 uncles in the war.
Right.
And amazingly, they all came back.
That is amazing.
Well, I can't believe it, to be honest. I mean, one was on convoys, believe it or not. Another one was long-range desert group, was a machine gunner. Another was a navigator on Lancasters. He came back on 3 engines.
My father did that.
Oh, right.
He was a navigator on Lancasters as well.
Oh, they came back on 3 engines after a bombing raid in Essen. I think that was the last.
Wow.
And another one actually helped the Norwegian King and Prince Olaf onto the Devonshire up in Tromsø.
Right. Wow. What a history. What a military history. You've got quite a family.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
And are any of your... I guess most of those men are now no longer with us, are they?
No, afraid not. No one did make it to 98.
Right. Yeah, what a wonderful generation of people they were.
Much to tell. And I've still got a memory working.
Yes, that's good. And what are you going to do today, Rosemary?
Well, just housework and things like that, and I've got to look after my cat.
Look after the cat, lovely. Well, listen, have a lovely day. Thank you for calling. Rosemary there, down in Kent. 4 uncles in the war, amazing. And they all came back, also amazing. Anne's in Somerset, let's try again. Hello, Anne.
Hello.
Hello, what can I do for you?
Well, I just said that I've got all my flags out at the moment to commemorate VJ Day.
Very
a lot
good.
of people forget VJ Day. I do it for VE Day as well.
Right.
My father was one of the forgotten army that came back from Burma.
Yeah.
He joined up when he was a young lad of 19 and came back a completely different man.
I'm sure. I can't imagine, because I've now got my own sons, and one of them's 18, one of them's 21. We're about to be 21. And you can't really imagine sending them off to war, can you?
No, I mean, he volunteered to go because he was in a job on the land that he didn't have to go, but he said, I'm a young man, I'm not got any, responsibilities. He went off with all his mates.
Yeah.
And my dad, all his life, had a moustache. And I one day asked him, why have you got a moustache, Dad? And he said, well, it was the first time me and my mates left England. And when we left England, going out on the ship, we said, we'll take something with us. And we all grew a moustache.
Right.
And he said, when we come back to England, we'll shave the moustache off.
Wow.
But unfortunately, his mates didn't come back, so he didn't shave this.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry. And listen, thank you for telling us that story. Very sweet. And in Somerset, still resonates with people, the VJ Day stuff. Russell Quirk's here. Very good morning to you.
Good morning. There seems to be remnants of a newspaper on the floor, Michael.
Yeah, I tore up the FT today. Because they've got the worst splash you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
They've actually written a story, right, which says things are not as bad for Rachel Reeves as you would have expected, because not as many people have left the country as people are saying.
Yeah.
The only number of people who have left the country are what was predicted to leave the country.
Yeah, yeah.
So apparently that's some kind of triumph.
It's very similar to the gaslighting yesterday with regard to the GDP figures. They were terrible.
Yeah.
But they weren't quite as terrible as they could have been.
Right.
That was
so
the left-wing gaslighting.
so now they're all out there going, oh, we've got the fastest growing economy in the G7.
Yeah.
It's not growing.
Yeah, but it's Labour maths.
It's
you
crap.
have to extrapolate. Yeah. So our growth is 1%. It's embarrassing. The US is 3%, by the way. Utterly embarrassing. Talking to US, obviously big day today for Mr. Trump.
Mr. Trump.
And Mr. Putin.
Yes.
The